The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 140. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and today I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Sup, people? It's Sunday. Did you see Castlevania and Spider-Man?
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
To answer Manny, yes and no. What up?
Brian Manjoma.
I still don't see it yet.
Brett Murdoch.
No and yes.
And Adam Vale.
No and
maybe.
He froze up.
Well, he froze up.
Yeah, he froze up. He's like,
the tension.
The tension. Yo, Adam,
the tension is killing me.
The globe.
It's time to recognize the Throwdown crickets.
You hear me?
No, you can't hear
there you are. Now you unfroze.
That's weird.
Adam, what's up, glow girls, man?
Glow.
All right, man. Let's not waste any time here. Let's get into it with some questions, man. All right, final stage boss. All right, he goes, can we expect all future consoles to be backwards compatible from now on? With the exception of Nintendo consoles, yes. You know, Phil Spencer already said that generations are a thing of the past for Xbox. Sony pretty much, or they haven't officially said it, but they pretty much are hinting that the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible with the PS4. And it's all because of the x86 architecture. It's very easy to have these. Yeah. So, yep, there you go. With the exception of Nintendo.
Nope, I don't buy it. I do not buy it for a second. Are you telling me these companies are going to shoot themselves in the foot and bleed out millions of dollars in revenue on games that they've proven time and time again that they can resell to you? No way in hell.
Yeah, but dude, think about it like this. Think about it with Sony, right? With the exception of the PlayStation 4, every one of their systems has backwards compatible. They have a history of it.
They had backwards compatibility before they dropped it like it was going out of style just about every time.
Well, they dropped it on PS3 because they wanted to get people to buy it.
But PS3 did have it at the beginning. Remember that?
Yeah, the PS2 didn't have it for its whole life cycle.
PS2 had backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 1.
It did.
For the whole life cycle?
Yes.
Yeah, for the whole life cycle. Yeah.
And the hilarious thing is, okay, they dropped PlayStation 2 backward compatibility on the PlayStation 3, but that should still place PlayStation 1 games.
Yes, it does. And then, Brett, here's the other thing. Microsoft is going out of their way to give you backwards compatible games. Why the fuck would they drop it with the Xbox 2? That makes no sense. Think about that.
You've kind of got me there. Like they have gone out of their way but this isn't the first time that we've heard people go out of their way to talk about backwards compatibility, and then the feature gets dropped because quote unquote nobody's interested in it.
You got to give me more examples other than PlayStation, man. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, dude, everything is pointing to there's going to be backwards compatibility. People wanted, the companies are giving it to you. There's no reason to believe they're not going to go that route, you know? Nintendo's the only one. They're the only exception. They don't give a fuck.
They're the outlier because they're not using the x86 architecture. See, everything is converging towards PC, and it's more cost effective to do so. So as long as they keep using that architecture, which I think they will, there's no reason that the games won't be backwards compatible.
Yeah, forwards compatible, no. Backwards compatible, yes. All right. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Well,
I believe it.
I mean, maybe they get too attached to the model of, yeah, we're going to start the generation by selling all these guys remasters of the previous generations. That's quite a possibility because we've seen that like in droves this generation. So
yeah, but here's the thing. They could still have their cake and eat it too, to give you backwards compatibility and still sell you upscale games. They're doing it with the Halo games. They're going to give those games backwards compatible, but you can still buy them new, shinier versions too. You know, people still buy those remasters, bro. You just tell them it's in actual 4K. They'll buy this shit. Yeah. You know. All right, man. Yeah. Let's move on here. Next question. If mid-gen upgraded consoles are now a thing, can we expect people to hold off buying a launch console and wait for the upgraded one, thus hurting launch sales? Okay, my take on it, people will always buy a console day one. That's not going to happen. However, the patient people would probably be better off waiting for the upgraded version of the system. Not only will you get a better system, but you're going to have a ton of games to play for it whenever that system does come out. But no, people will always buy systems day one. I guarantee you that's how it is. You know, so I don't think these upgraded consoles are going to like hurt sales in the future of launch titles or launch systems.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I see people, there's always early adopters, right? There's always the people going to pre-order day one, whatever it is. And then people are going to wait. Now, I think that the cycles are going to decrease in span, right? Iterative generations are going to get shorter. So it would behoove everyone to wait, but they're not going to do that. So if you can hold out, watch like between PS5 and mid PS5 and Xbox 2 and Xbox 2.5 or whatever the hell they call it is not going to be as big of a gap. The gaps are going to keep getting smaller.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
you also probably see simultaneous releases pretty far into the console generation if history is proving anything.
What do you mean?
You know, when Xbox or when PlayStation 5 comes out, you'll see, you know, Assassin's Creed 8 come out on, you know, PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4.
Yeah, but they're more talking about the mid-gen version, like PlayStation 5 Pro. That's what he's talking about.
No,
Yeah.
I know. No, he's saying, you know, when we talk about when PlayStation 5 releases, will people hold off to buy the PlayStation 5 Pro? And I'm saying they'll probably be able to, because they'll probably still be playing the same games just about up until the time the PlayStation 5 Pro comes out.
Yeah, no, that's true. Exactly. That's why I was saying.
So you can probably get by. I think you'll be forced into the next generation much more subtly than you were ever before. So you'll still be able to play all these games that your friends are playing, like especially if you have a PS Pro, you'll still be able to play all the same games that your friends are playing on their PlayStation 5, just with a slightly downgraded fidelity for, I'd say, at least the first 2 years. They'll probably release games in tandem like that.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that's what happened this generation.
If we're talking mid-generation upgrades, and now we're talking a couple years, like, yeah, you could hold off a couple years, you know, to go from your PS4 Pro to your PS5 Pro, and still probably not miss out on any real big games.
Yeah, that's true. All right, anybody else want to jump in on that? I think we pretty much covered it.
I agree with that.
All right, moving on here to Mr. Valagus. He goes, being that Cuphead is an Xbox exclusive, why in the hell were the developers taking out second mortgages on their homes to pay for the continued development of the game? Where was Microsoft? Did they not offer any financial help with this exclusive? And he goes, I'm going to buy this game on Xbox One. It's a great question, because, yeah, these guys are like selling their homes and shit, second mortgages or whatever.
You know, the thing is that I don't think they were putting that the Microsoft was putting that much money into that game.
I don't think they had that much faith in that game.
At its heart, it's still an indie game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the reason why they're taking mortgages out on their house to kind of, you know, to get the game to a point where you know a better point than it might have been.
Yeah, I mean, do we even know that
it happens all the time with a lot of exclusive games? Except the main company doesn't. You know, they're probably, unlike the big studios. You know, they can't really miss those deadlines, and then they have to hire a bunch of people outside. Mass Effect. Yeah. So you know. That's probably the reason. I'm sure that they're not getting, like, they're getting money from Microsoft, but I'm sure they're not getting that much.
Well, they don't. Microsoft doesn't have to give them money. The publisher, if you're an independent and you get published by a big company, the publisher is responsible for distribution, advertising, and things like that. Well, Microsoft doesn't pay their salaries or anything like that. Cuphead is a labor of love that has been contracted to Microsoft as an exclusive title. And that's it. Labor of love means they are paying out of pocket for it to develop it. You know, the developers, I forgot their names. But other than that, Microsoft doesn't have to give them any support or anything. But Microsoft will put up billboards and bus ads and TV ads and digital ads and buy time on Walking Dead and all that shit. That's what they're responsible for. Other than that, they're not responsible for anything else.
Also, do we know that even if Sony was interested in this? Like, everyone makes it seem like, oh, damn, they grabbed them up. They snagged that game up. How do we know anyone even give the shit?
That's true. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, man.
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, they make it seem like, this is like one of those free agents. Like, oh, damn, they grabbed them. But you're assuming too much, It's like you make it seem like they were something that people wanted. Maybe they did post it up to Sony. Say, hey, look, this is what we're working on. They were like, oh, that's great. You can keep working on it. Peace.
Yeah,
you don't know.
that's how TV shows work. I mean, people pitch shows all the time.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
One channel will go take a hike, and one channel goes, "Hey, we like that."
Exactly. We got Zombieland the movie, and they pitched it as a TV show to Fox, and Fox said no.
Yeah, who knows? But it was a good question to us because people are confused about that. But Manny's right. It's like these guys are still funding the game on their own, basically.
Yeah, it's still them. It's still them doing it. The Microsoft again. Like, I agree with Chris too. It's like they're probably putting all the the promotional money into the game. Getting it onto places. Maybe even printing it. Who knows? But yeah, it's in the end, it's just them doing the work. I mean, here's the thing about that game, and I know everybody's like, "Oh, when is this game coming out?" It's like, yo, you realize how much hand animation these people are doing on this fucking game?
Yeah.
Like, you even have an inkling of how many hours it takes to do that. They're doing this game in what is called ones. Ones is essentially every single frame of animation needs to be drawn. Like, that is probably the smoothest bit of animation that you could ever do. If you ever looked at any of those 1920s cartoons or all the old Mickey Mouse cartoons where everything looks all gummy and like smooth, that's the shit that they're doing. Not like anime. Anime is like running at like 15 frames a second.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think they've roped themselves into a corner because that added so much time to the game development, which is now added to the cost.
Yes. Yeah, and they completely changed the game. Remember, it was originally just like a boss mode kind of game, and now it's a full-on side-scrolling action adventure game, type of thing. So very different now,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, as excited as people are for this, and as much as people be like, "Why isn't Microsoft banking more on this?" Killer Instinct. Does everyone remember how excited everybody was for Killer Instinct and how it didn't really turn out to be a cash-generating machine for Microsoft?
Yeah, no one really talks about that game, to be honest.
Well, no, but people were like foaming at the mouth, and people were holding up signs, being like, "Oh my God, Xbox is exclusive." We have Killer Instinct. Like, just because there seems to be a certain amount of community hype doesn't necessarily mean the thing is going to be a commercial success. So when you talk about, well, why didn't Microsoft step in and put money down, other than the reasons like, oh, well, they're the publisher, not the developer. That's not their job. Even if the game was in peril, and even if they were at risk of the studio closing down and them, quote unquote, losing assets, they had no guarantee that this game is going to be, a huge blockbuster. And like Tony said, at the end of the day, it's an indie game. So as excited as everybody is for this, there's no proof other than anecdotal proof that the people who are excited about this are a small fan base who's very loud. A lot of people who like animation nerds. I mean, you could pinpoint them on this show. The people who are like, "Oh my God, I love animation. I love this game."
What type of game is it? Is it like puzzler?
It's like Contra. It's like an old school shooting Contra game. It even plays exactly like Contra, the feel and everything. Because again, originally it was like a boss rush mode type of game. You just fought a bunch of bosses, but people were like, "Hey, it would have been nice if this game was a side-scrolling game." So they made it into a side-scrolling game. But that takes a long time with a game like this, And I do want to move on to next, but quickly, because some people were asking me on Twitter, like, "Hey, is this game going to have more frames a second on Xbox One X?" No.
Nope.
All that shit is hand animated.
It's all hand animated. The only thing, if the thing is running at 60 frames, the only thing that will affect is
the background, right? The scrolling.
It'll affect the scrolling and how the characters jump. So like actual specific movement across the screen will be a lot smoother. But other than that, you're not going to get any more frames of animation. It's not going to magically generate an extra 60 frames a second of animation.
The reason that came up is because I said that I'm going to buy. I'm specifically going to buy it on the Xbox console. People are like, why don't you buy it on PCs and have more frames a second? I'm like, no, it's not.
It's not. The thing is that they're running in ones, but they're running in one frame a second, but in 24 frames a second.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's going to be running. It's going to be running very incredibly smooth, but it's still going to be locked down to 24 frames a second because that's how film works.
Yep, pretty much. All right, let's move on here to Fall of Duty, who is also in the chat right now, and he asks, "Do you guys agree Xbox cannot compete with Sony PS4 in terms of exclusives because Microsoft is not giving studios more freedom and creativity and risk taking?" Very interesting question there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That is the thing is, and I feel that Microsoft hasn't found the thing that strikes the fans. At least a lot of the people that were on there, like nothing like a Halo or a.
Manny, you stop talking in the middle of a sentence.
Sorry, because I have guests over and they're leaving now. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say, actually, hold on. I'll be right back.
All right. I was like, this dude just stopped talking.
Yeah, no, I
let's
don't
jump
think
in, man.
so.
What do you say?
I don't think so. I think it's
Yeah, go
just
ahead,
they're looking for the right thing. I think that's what it comes down to. They need something that is original, and that's very difficult, especially when we have all these type of open world games, first person shooter games, puzzle games. I mean, they have to find something unique. I think that's the main reason why they canceled that other game. It wasn't so much of a they don't want their own games, it's that they want the right game. They wanted to put money down on something that they know is going to be a hit, not just start pumping out these exclusives and everyone's saying, wow, this exclusive sucked. It's like they don't want that. So it's going to take time, and hopefully they'll put something together and they'll find something. But that's the key, because I don't care what people say. The X could be superpower and that shit could hover off my desk, but if it can't play anything unique, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this is it works in other mediums to a lesser extent. I kind of see Microsoft as the image of video game world. They don't really generate their own content, but they're supposed to be a vehicle through which other people can generate content. And there's definitely that vacuum, that hole. Valve used to do that a lot. Support a lot of indie developers, pour money into some indie games, help the cream rise to the top, and then claim said cream as their own. Portal is a perfect example of that. Valve didn't come up with Portal. Valve found Portal and then polished it. So the idea itself is kind of sound. It's been shown in other mediums as well as in video games. So there's a place for that ideology. It's just Microsoft hasn't really found the sweet spot of how to support and how to promote that. And I think they've taken the first steps in opening themselves up with and becoming more friendly with indie gamers. Now maybe if they can develop that relationship with indie gamers to the point where they are able to pick out the rising stars and invest money in them, that's how you invest money wisely. I mean, we all know Microsoft likes to just kind of throw around money to solve their problems. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in how you approach it, but like I just laid out, that's probably the better way to approach it than to buy fully fledged games, to bank on these big games that they're going to buy exclusivity for. Generally doesn't foster a whole lot of goodwill, at least not as much as bringing a game to light that might not have otherwise existed. So I think they're taking the first steps, but if they're going to go the route of investing and spending money in games as opposed to generating content, they need to start investing and spending money on like I said, rising stars, and then PlayStation can go and continue to build, or Sony can go and continue to build their shit from the ground up as they have been. So I view it as Microsoft has the choice to do one of those two options, but they can't just keep going the way that they are and buying fully fledged IPs.
I kind of disagree, because the whole indie thing, while on paper it does seem pretty interesting, it doesn't move the needle anywhere. Grabbing indie titles and all these exclusive indie games only appeases like us, the super hardcore people. Like if Microsoft, good.
I'm more saying that they need to make a relationship with indie developers similar to how Valve did. I'm not saying that these indie games are going to be the answer. What they need to do is make friends with small indie companies or small indie developers who are lacking finances but show great promise, and then supporting them financially to make AAA games. Don't wait to buy a AAA game. It's kind of like the difference between scouting out somebody who's already in the major leagues and trying to pull them from another team versus scouting out somebody who's in high school or even college and offering to, pay a portion of their schooling in exchange for exclusivity rights later. Like, these guys need to find the next generation of game developers who are making really good games and then give them the resources to make really good games exclusively for Microsoft.
But
I'm not talking about...
Yeah, I
What's
don't
that?
think
Has there been no? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
well, I was just going to say, I don't think they have the corporate culture to do that. They've never done that. Microsoft has a corporate culture of buying companies and burying them just to not have the tech go to Apple or someone else. So,
and that's what I'm saying needs to change.
They didn't bury Skype. They did that.
Because they wanted Skype, they wanted the integration, they wanted the voice over IP technology, and they used it. But they've taken other stuff and never leveraged it for anything. They just buried
Oh no, Chris, you're absolutely right. That's what I'm saying needs to change. I'm saying if Microsoft wants to work with money, they need to work on changing the way that they spend their money and not buying fully fledged AAA experiences, but start building a bridge and working with developers. I've said it before, I've said it again. Portal is the perfect example of a game that worked like this. Portal was a very basic game engine that got polished into a game once they figured out the proof of concept worked and Valve got behind it. They gave the money to give the first Portal game the polish and then took that person out of the indie development field, pulled them into Valve, and had them create Portal 2 from the ground up. I think that right there is a perfect roadmap for how you buy good games. Unless you want to just invest in a group of talented individuals and form your own studio the way that Sony likes to do, you have to find these guys while they're still in the rough, because then otherwise by the time they get a fully fledged game under their feet and come out, with a good game that can sell on its own right, the best Microsoft can afford to do is buy limited exclusivity.
Yeah,
and that's
but
not.
I also think the biggest problem with them, and this also Chris mentioned, is like, and it also has to do with the management. It's just kind of not only trying to build internal teams and trying to take those sorts of chances, but also just going out there and looking at what's there and trying to find it. I mean, how do you think that friggin' Sony found Media Molecule? How did they find all these companies?
Yeah,
it's because they had these interesting ideas, and I'm sure Media Molecule probably was looking for somebody to sell this Little Big Planet idea to, and they're like, Microsoft said, probably said, nah, this is not what we're looking for, and Sony's like, all right, this is kind of cool. We'll look, let's go with this.
Yeah, but
I think that the culture at sorry, I think that
take long pauses, so I keep thinking, is he done? So I'm gonna.
I think the culture at Sony, it comes from kind of like a music artist situation, because the way their game creation relationships is very is based on the same sort of structure as their music department, where they'll sign a person, sign a musician, right, and they'll just kind of go hands off. It's like, all right, here's the money to do what you want to do, or do the thing that you like, or do the thing, and then do what you do, rather than going in there kind of like the way I feel like Microsoft does and says, no, this is not what we're looking for. Make this more this, or do this more this, trying to shape the actual direction of it. I feel that
Hollywood is like, or Microsoft is like Hollywood movies.
Yeah, Microsoft is like Hollywood movies, and Sony, at least the Sony PlayStation department, is a little bit more like the guys at the Legendary Pictures, which make these crazy ass fucking movies, like Pacific Rim.
Yeah, the way I see it is like this, right? Like, basically, Microsoft, they want to invest in like 2 or 3 games that are going to make X amount of money, while Sony's like, hey, let's invest in like 20 games that may make X. Now, those 20 games are definitely smaller than the other games, but if you have that many more games, you'll probably end up making more money in the long run, even if not all of them are a hit. Some of them are going to be a hit, and they'll bring in more money. You know what I mean? So you could make more money from like 10 smaller titles than like 2 or 3 big titles, potentially.
I agree with that, but the Microsoft's approach of doing the opposite, where they're like, "Hey, let's shove 9 pregnant women in a room and make a baby in a month," like that doesn't work. I mean, look at Destiny. Look at how much money was invested in the making of fucking Destiny, and it's not. I realize a lot of people like it, and I realize it's a lot of people's jam, but it's not anything fucking different. Like, for all of the money that they put into design and resource management and fucking art and just some of the concept art alone, like if you sat down and read this fucking concept art or watch this concept art documentary, like they spent a lot of resources trying to get a very specific feeling down for this game, and in the end they came out with something that was, let's all be honest, fucking fun but homogenized.
But let's be honest too, though. Destiny made so much fucking money that every company's trying to make their own version, so it worked for them. It worked.
Yeah, but is that because they made a game that already was built off the back of
we
Halo?
talked about this on Throwdown. They've made a game that was specifically tailored to generate money, and that's what Microsoft is trying to do with their games. Understand? They want Destiny type of games.
No, I agree.
I mean? Like,
but that's the thing. Is it the way that the game is made that generates the money, or is it the quality of the game that makes money?
Well, with Destiny, I mean, it's a quality game, I guess, but it really is because of the money they put into advertising and the studio behind it and just the general hype. I know, yeah, Destiny is not a great game, let's just be honest, but it made a shit ton of money, and that's why everybody else is trying to do it.
My point is, you could have made that game with a third of the cost.
Oh yeah, easily.
Without even touching their market. That game was bloated to begin with, and like that right there is a perfect example. Like, yeah, Microsoft bet on this game, and they bet on it fucking hard, but it really you could have used your money smarter. You could have seeded many small things. It's an adage about chicken, eggs, and a basket comes to mind. They just dump all these resources into these very few small projects. And they bloat the budget as if that's somehow correlated to the success of the game. And on the advertising side, I completely understand. But on the game development side, at a certain point, aren't you just over polishing something?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, with Microsoft, because that's what it seems like. It's like they're more invested in like the big super AAA games than they are in like the smaller games.
There was a point when Microsoft was interested. In creating different types of titles.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah,
well, I'm talking original Xbox.
Yeah, the original Xbox.
Those were the days.
I'm talking like they're talking to the guy who created Final Fantasy and saying, "Hey, make Blue Dragon for us," or talking to the guy who created the guy who designed Sonic and said, "Hey, design a mascot platformer for us." Or
that was all on the 360 though. That wasn't there.
Those are 360 games, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the Blinks the Cat was on the other one.
But a Blue Dragon was 360.
But I feel like in those early days they were more invested in trying to attract different types of audiences. The only problem with these sorts of situations is they didn't capture those audiences at the time. So now they're in a rock and a hard place situation where you have a shitload of fans that really want Halos and Gears of Wars, and when they do try to put out things new, they don't hit like they want them to, like Quantum Break.
Well, and they've also had opportunities to acquire developers. Like, there's been a lot of free agents, like BioWare, Bungie, Respawn. Like Kojima was never going to go there, but like they had opportunities to get all these developers, but they
had opportunities. But the thing is that I'm thinking in all of those situations, they did not have things that impressed the people at Microsoft at the time. They were looking at it. I'm sure as fuck sure that Bungie was like, "Hey, we got this thing called Destiny." Remember in the last one of the Halo games, there's actually an advertisement for fucking Destiny in it.
Bungie wanted out. They wanted out, and then Microsoft sold them their stocks back.
Yeah.
So
they wanted nothing to do with them. That's why I'm not surprised.
Hey,
So I'm sure, I'm sure that a lot of these guys showed up with something, said, "Hey, this is what we got," and then maybe the Microsoft executives goes like, "What is this?"
Well,
Yeah, exactly. That's not going to make us money. Go ahead, Chris.
The last thing I'll just say
Yeah,
is
last
that,
thing, and then we'll move on.
Phil Spencer is still trying to clean up the Dan Matrick dynasty, and that was make as much stuff as possible to get as much money as possible. He caused the divestment of Bungie and all that stuff, and Phil Spencer's trying to clean that up. So things like canceling Fable and stuff, that was all started under Dan Matrick. All those things, all those rehashes. Now Phil Spencer's canceling him, and he looks bad, but he has to clean that stuff up because it probably wasn't very good. And now it takes time. All that stuff takes years to cancel and restart and figure out what you're going to do, what the next move is. So that's what we're seeing now. We're in the middle of that.
Can I ask a question?
All right, and then we'll move on. Go ahead.
Is Microsoft in trouble of branding or typecasting themselves as the bro system?
They already are that.
They've already done that.
Well, no, they
I'm still confused. What's so wrong with the term bro?
No, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's what it is now. And they've been branded that for an entire generation now.
Well, I guess to jump off that, like when I say bro system, I'm talking 18 to 24-year-old male, maybe like demographic. Like, are they in danger of basically falling into the same
They're
trap
already there.
Doritos and Mountain Dew are? Which, let's be honest, if they're doing that, they're branding themselves as a system not for adults. They are branding themselves as a system for adolescents and teenagers.
Well, and then that's you could say that's on Nintendo and their kitty, characters that they keep focusing on, Mario and Luigi. But what, you think that's for adults?
It isn't.
Nintendo's definitely branded itself as a mostly kid-friendly system.
Yeah, there you go.
They've gone out of their way to provide games that adults can play too, and that's been what they've built their back off of.
They're considered the family entertainment console.
Yeah, but to answer your question, Microsoft has been that for a long time, maybe the last 15 years.
So are they stuck in that brand though?
Yeah, they are. Think about it. Manny, you and I had this conversation. Once Halo hit, that was it. And they saw that was a hit. That was it. Everything was focused towards those type of games.
Which is why the original one of the original architects of the Xbox, the original Xbox left. He said that once Halo hit, they forgot about all the other games that he wanted, that he was invested in and pushing. And he's like, this place is not, they're looking for is just Halo type games, when we have all these other amazing titles that are ready to go. So that right there killed them. You can look at interviews with that guy, and he's like, yeah, when I went out there, he's like, I wanted to get the faith of everybody. I went over to Japan. I talked to everybody in Japan about these sorts of, different things that they could do for us, stuff like that, and built these relationships. And then he says, as soon as Halo dropped, and that was just, he's like, that game, he's like, it wasn't pushed at the time when when they were putting it out or getting ready to do it. He's like, at that time, it was just one in a bunch of other games that they were investing in. It was just so happened that one hit as hard, hit incredibly hard and then essentially overshadowed everything else that they had in development. And then after that, he's like, oh no. And then they didn't want to invest in those other titles. And he's like, now now you look at Microsoft, they're having that sort of problem. Where they've almost become branded as that title. So now what do you do? Do you start pushing out a bunch of games that are almost exactly the same? Like, or you start, flood the market, flood the Xbox with a bunch of third-person shooters or all kinds of sort of shooter type games to kind of appease that audience that they've been associated with. You don't know.
All right,
it's a difficult room because like at one point, you have the section where it's like, okay, let's say they decided to pull away focus from all those sorts of games. So then that means that they cut out a huge part of their market. Like let's say decided to do a bunch of Uncharted type games.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's move on here. Where are we now? We're up to Mr. Sodep, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So his first question is: do you think Nintendo will launch the Prime trilogy before Prime 4. So he's asking, are they going to make a Metroid Prime HD trilogy? Maybe. Who knows? When Nintendo, who the fuck knows?
Either
They
that or
could-
they're
they
releasing
could
a
do
virtual console in a bundle.
They could do that. I can't really say who knows. It would be nice because, you know, people like me who never played any of those games, I could play them and then get ready for Prime 4.
Wait,
but
what?
Brett, when was okay? Let me ask you this: what was the last Nintendo console I owned before Switch?
I would assume the Wii.
No,
Brett, really? The last Nintendo system I owned was the Super Nintendo. So I didn't. So I didn't play any of that shit. Then and Nintendo 64 was, huh?
A
Nope.
GameCube was
Why the
still a
fuck would
relevant system.
Why would I want a GameCube when I had a PS2, man? It's a superior console. You know, let's just be honest here.
Unless you have 3 friends.
I had friends, and what did we do on PlayStation 2, Manny? Playing Street Fighter and shit.
like Street Fighter and all that stuff.
Yep.
So,
Maybe I was just the magical age of drunken Mario Party shenanigans.
Yeah, not to
Yeah.
derail this conversation, but here's where we kind of differ when it comes to Nintendo, right? See, you stopped playing Nintendo around the Wii era, right? That's when they lost you. They lost me back in the Super Nintendo era. Like after that, I'm like the Nintendo 64 was stupid. I didn't like the GameCube. The Wii was retarded. Wii U was retarded. So
Yo, the 64 was so good, man.
Man, remember that? That was like a running joke for us. You know, whenever
yeah.
it got foggy, it's like, hey, listen, Nintendo 64 graphics outside.
so everything's all blurry.
Yeah, cartridges. Like that was a running joke for
I need to
us.
put on a better pair of glasses so I can see everything in this game.
But anyway, yeah. So again, guys like me who never played those games, I could actually play them now. But who knows if they're going to do it? With Nintendo, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a smart move if they decided to do something like that, where they decided to put all the Metroid games, the Prime games together.
Yeah, by the way, quick shout out to Daniel J, who's giving us some money. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right, go ahead.
Just giving you money to buy old Nintendo games.
Yeah.
The biggest thing though, and I want to know, and not is that are they going to re-release all the old games? Is the fact are they saying that Metroid Prime is now part of the is canon?
Metroid Prime was canon.
No,
it wasn't.
Yeah, they said
Nintendo said
they
it
said the
themselves.
Prime games are not. Yeah,
They said Metroid Prime is not canon. They said
They didn't say Other M was canon.
They said Metroid Other M was canon.
Oh, fuck them.
yep. Well, you know why, Brett? Where was Prime made?
What's that?
Where was
Where
Prime
was Prime
developed?
made?
Who developed Metroid Prime?
Prime was the Western developers, dude.
There you go. There's your answer.
Yeah, but I forget who.
Retro Studios did it.
Was it Retro?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
just because they didn't internally develop it, it's not considered canon.
No,
even though
Other M wasn't internally developed either. It's
so
just,
why is it canon?
do I have to spell it out for you, man?
Because it's a Japanese studio that
Japanese.
did it, dude.
Yeah.
But it was so awful.
It doesn't matter. It was made by Japanese, so it's a viable one.
You can technically I'm perfectly fine with you deciding after the product is released what is and is not canon. Like you can look at a movie or a game that fans hate and be like, we're just gonna say that's not canon. Like I was perfectly fine with them retconning Alien 3 and 4 to make a new one. Like that's it's not hard for them to say like, oh no, this is canon now. Like look what the fuck they've done with the Zelda series. Like apparently everything's canon there and none of it makes any sense. So I'm just surprised that's like one of those like, so you're sticking with that story? Like you could change your mind. We'll give you a minute. Nintendo's like, no, sticking with that story. Like, are you sure?
Well, they might change it now. I don't know. They seem to be changing their tune on some things. I mean, look, Mercury Steam is working on the Metroid 2 remake, so that's canon.
I didn't think Mercury Steam was still around after Lords of Shadow.
Oh man,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah, it's them. They still got work, somehow.
Well, I mean, you know what? I guess Mercury Steam is good at remaking games. Not good at making their own.
Oh shit.
Hey, I know artists like that.
Oh man. All right. Let's move on to his second question. How should Sony approach the development of a new handheld?
Don't.
All right, I'll let you go first. I already have my list of how to do the perfect handheld.
Well,
Well,
number one. I'm just gonna say number one real quick. Don't use a proprietary memory stick.
Yes, that's the main.
Yes,
I
yeah.
still believe that's the thing that killed the fucking Vita. Those goddamn memory cards being $50 million. You know,
You think that's what killed the Vita?
easily, because think about it like this: people, bought the Vita. It was initially, it did really well, but the thing is, if you can't buy, put your games in a card, why are you going to buy games for it? You just leave it. That's what happened to me. Like, as soon as I got that 64 hard, gigabyte, when I started buying a bunch of games, I can actually store them now. That's easily the biggest thing that killed the Vita because of that. Because people didn't buy the Vita because of that. Then Sony stopped putting games on it and shit. It was so much stuff. So that definitely gotta go. You need like a just whatever the standard SD card is. Have that. No more weird pluggings, plug controllers, or what is it called? The plug-in shit, the chargers. None of that weird shit. Use regular standard USB like everybody else. The actual design of it is okay. Just have clickable thumbsticks and like 2 more buttons at the top. But other than that, that's pretty much it. That's the only things that the Vita really had wrong with it. Obviously be backwards compatible. Brett, there's another one. Vita's backwards compatible with the PSP.
Yep.
Sony, again, they have a history of backwards compatibility.
Vita's fully backward compatible with PlayStation 1 games. It also plays PSP games, and obviously plays Vita games. Oh, yeah. And it also was compatible with that mobile system that they did for a while too. So all those funky little mobile games that they made when they had a phone.
Right? I remember that shit.
Yeah, they made those little phone games. Yeah, those are all work on the Vita as well. So,
and obviously, keep that same functionality between the PS4 and whatever the new handheld would be. By the way, I'm speaking just hypothetically. I seriously doubt Sony's ever going to make another handheld again. But if they were to, that's what I would like to see on it. No proprietary fucking memory cards.
But here's the one thing about it: even if it was just a revision of the PlayStation Vita, it would be better. You know what I mean? Like if they just
Vita, you need to start from scratch though, man. Like that our hardware is fucking old already.
No. I mean, the hardware is old. I mean, you essentially you do a fucking Vita Pro. You fix all the issues that it had originally. It plays games better than they did before. You could do something like that. It doesn't need to be an exact Vita. Like it doesn't need to be like PlayStation Vita 2 or PlayStation Portable 3. You know what I mean? Because I mean, it wouldn't be. Because here's the thing about it: it wouldn't be that much of a. They already have a incredibly huge library. So why would you leave that shit behind? You wouldn't leave that behind.
It would still have to be backwards compatible, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it had a great library.
If it's a better model, where it uses these the regular USB, not USB, flash cards and all kinds of stuff like that, and adjust quite a bit of a bunch of stuff on it, I think it could be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
But
and also allow it to plug into a TV to output. That was one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, that too.
The second.
Yes, pretty much just make it the Switch.
Hell no. Don't use those dumbass Joy-Cons, man.
Okay, make this Switch in concept of like what it does, which is like it's a portable device. You can plug it into a TV. Everything's good to go, and it has some games.
But I don't know. Is the Switch screen too wide? Like to me?
Oh God, no. That's okay. See, here's the reason. Like, and I'll just throw this out there. The reason why I think it would have to pretty much be exactly like a Switch, and that's the reason I don't think it happens. I love the size of the Switch on the screen, even down to I realized when playing the other day that I don't have to worry about my buttons or my joysticks anymore. Like worst case scenario, I play the hell out of this thing. My buttons start getting sticky. I can buy a new set of Joy-Cons to strap to the side. The fact that I don't have to worry about fucking up my thumbstick, I don't have to worry about my buttons getting tacky or wear and tear on my system. Like that alone is a beautiful thing, and something that I'm going to be a little bit upset about next time. Like if I bought a Vita again, I'm back to like having to care for the thing like a baby. Like, even down to the Vita didn't really have extended sticks, and like it wasn't a real joystick experience.
Yeah, you need actual joysticks for this one.
Yeah, but then you got to start worrying about what about when those joysticks start wearing down? What what about when they're being grabbed by shit in your bag, or it. I love the fact
Well, you
that
could
I
have
can
a
replace
case
the
for that
controls.
though, because that's
You can, but like the things that I would change would be replaceable button combinations, or so that you could like put a different kind of controller on the outside, which would be very much like the Switch. I'd want to increase the size, which would be very much like the Switch. I'd want to be able to play on the TV as well as in handheld mode, which is very much like the Switch. It would pretty much be, I'd want a Switch with a little bit more power, some processing in the dock, and Sony games. That's but.
No, because I was going to say the Switch in many ways did kind of correct some of the mistakes of the Vita, but it still has its own issues too.
Oh no, yeah, I'd make sure it was Bluetooth compatible and the chat worked seamlessly through it.
The battery life.
Yeah, well, as much as I'd like a longer battery life, I don't know if that's being unrealistic to ask. I don't know.
I kind of agree with Brad. I think you can't really get more than 3 hours out of these things. You know, especially if you're pumping out graphics like that.
Battery tech sucks, and that's not either company's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking at you, Duracell, who the fuck makes that? You suck.
You know. All right. Anybody else have any ideas how to make a really cool PSP 2 or PSP 3?
Ergonomics. Don't just test it with tiny Japanese hands.
Let's just be real. Let's just be real here.
Get like Marshawn Lynch and have him hold it. And if he's not comfortable, then assume that most of America will not be. So
see, I want detachable controllers, but I want multiple choices of controller grips. I would like the choice for like big beefy grips that you can snap onto the side, or little travel grips that you can snap onto the side, or whatever. I'm still waiting for Nintendo to do that shit. Just give me something that looks like a PlayStation controller sawed in half that I can snap to the side of my thing. I get it. I won't be able to hold it on its side. Man, cry me a river. I use my Joy-Cons for that.
And also, if they work on connectivity with the PS4, that the Vita Pro or whatever it's called can play on your PS4. You use it as a controller and then have a dual screen experience like that. That would be nice.
I've given up that they're able to do that though. They've promised us that for what, like 10 years now?
Yeah, well, I think they could do it.
Like they've been promising a second screen connective experience since the PSP, and they've never been able to deliver.
The PSP could connect to your TV though.
It could, but it was janky as shit.
I mean, it worked. I mean, here's the thing: all it was just a video signal onto your TV. That's all it really was.
Yeah, and the input lag made most games unplayable.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about a PS4 game. Like, let's say I had Horizon, right? And I'm using the Vita Pro, but on the PS4 I'm playing Horizon. So I use the Vita as my controller, and on the screen I could have, I don't know, Aloy's crafting shit on there, so I can just do that. You know, that's what I mean.
Yeah, like you could have like your inventory shit on the handheld, right? And then on the actual screen you have the game. That would be great.
You have to really seriously improve the ergonomics of that thing. Like I still remember my defining experience was when I tried to remote play Dark Souls just across the fucking room so that I could play Dark Souls on my Vita and Rachel could watch TV. And it was the worst experience ever. Dark Souls was literally unplayable on the Vita.
I managed to play Bloodborne on there pretty damn well.
Yeah, I played Far Cry 4.
He plays a lot of games like that, and he had no issues.
I a lot of games like that. Like Bloodborne, I did that on there.
I was able to take Far Cry 4, like, in my office, and I was playing it off PS4. I was just streaming it, and it was fine.
Yeah, I even played a little bit of Horizon like that. It was fine. I had no issues,
but ergonomics is important just to the fact that comfort, like holding the system.
Yeah, definitely,
The biggest issue I have to say is obviously the things that were set to clicks, which were set to the touchpad or one of the touchpads or something like that. That was the part that was a little bit difficult with some things.
Oh my god! Just make your portable mirror the same. It needs to have the same buttons.
Yeah,
that your other fucking controller does.
We have a question about that coming up soon. But yeah, you're right. Like have the exact same buttons. That's why I said clickable joysticks, all that shit. Keep it exactly the same. None of that back touchpad nonsense.
Yeah, no touchpad, man. We don't need that.
Yeah, we don't need that shit. If you want to have some touch stuff in the front, fine. But whatever. It's not necessary.
Nobody wants touchscreen stuff. Even Nintendo has pretty much abandoned touchscreen stuff.
But the Switch has touchscreen stuff, though, man.
It is like one touchscreen game.
Yeah, but even like the main menus and stuff, like you want to do that touchscreen, that's fine. But also have the option of doing it normally too. But yeah, no touchscreen stuff. Like, we don't really need that shit. All right, hello, dog. So the next question here is from Mr. Hashling and Slasher. It's a very interesting question here. So he goes, do you think a game should be reviewed by 3 different reviewers at different skill levels? You know, good, best, better when it comes to playing games, or just one who is moderately good at games? I think that if you play at an above average level on some multiplayer games like Overwatch, you enjoy the game more because that the gameplay is more intense. If a player isn't all that great at the game, then things usually go at a slower pace and the game could be very shallow or boring. Okay, no, first of all, you don't need 3 guys to review one game. That's stupid. You get one guy that's really good at that genre, get him to play the game, and there's your review. You don't really need 3 guys. That makes no sense. Yeah. It's like, you know, for example, even though I could do it, me doing an Overwatch review will not be good as the guy who always plays multiplayer games doing the review, right? You wouldn't get a guy like me to do Overwatch. You get me to play something like Assassin's Creed or God of War. That's the shit I'm more into, right? You get the person who's best suited for that specific genre and let them do the review. You don't really need like multiple skill sets. That's just kind of ridiculous. You know?
I think you should be good at games to review games. I'm sorry.
Like, true.
Let's not apologize for the crap that's called game journalism these days. You know?
Yeah.
These guys suck at games.
They
They're not
suck.
even
They
gamers.
fucking trash. You know,
they're certainly not writers, so I don't know what they are. But
yeah, oh man, don't get but again, get one dude that's good at games. But if you have to be specific, like if you have a fighting game, get the fighting game guy to do it. Every person has the specific thing they're really into. You get those guys, but right, you should just be good at games overall. You know, even me, I'm not into every genre, but I could play any fucking game, review the shit out of it for you. You know.
I could pick up any genre of game, and this isn't even a humble brag, I guess. This is just a brag. I could pick up any genre of game, and out of a room of like 10 people, whoop up on everybody if nobody's ever played the game. And this happened to me several times. Like,
oh no, you're good at FIFA?
You know, I don't
Adam's
know.
calling that challenge.
Oh man, I've done it.
If you put me down with somebody who had also never played FIFA, I would probably be better at them than FIFA,
okay,
just because
come at me with Street Fighter, man. Let's go.
Yeah, right.
Well, no, okay. Are you talking about if Tony never played Street Fighter before and I had never played Street Fighter? Like if they made a brand new Street Fighter type game that neither of us had ever put our hands on and put both in our hands. And again, you're probably the same as me because like we're people that grew up with controllers in our hands. But like
Brett, if they came out with Street Fighter 6 and I had never even seen the cover art, I guarantee I'd whoop your ass in it.
Well, yeah, because it's more Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Like, but like ARMS is a perfect example for me. Like, it is staggering the amount of people who I have to teach to play this fucking game. Like the fact that they can't just pick it up and at least beat it through on level 2, like it baffles me. We just picked up another racing game. It's pretty much a F-Zero. It's not called F-Zero, but it was for the Switch. And
I know what you're talking about. Wave Race or some shit like that. I forgot.
Something like that.
I know what you're talking about, though.
Like,
yeah,
he loves racing games. So both the guys in my shop, both of them play racing games all the time. This is the first time we picked it up. I just fucking smoked them right out of the gate. So I think to a certain extent, like if you're good at video games.
Fast RMX. Fast RMX. That's the name of it.
There we go. Yes. Yeah. That game is actually pretty cool.
No, but you're right, Brett. Basically, if you're just good at games overall, and even if it's a game you've never played before, you're probably going to be pretty good at it because you have that gaming muscle memory. You know?
Yeah, it's just controller input is all it boils down to. Controller input and reflexes. And if you've worked on those, then you've worked on those. And I can understand, much like my previous example with ARMS, how if somebody who's not good at these types of things or hasn't done these kinds of things, it can be a frustrating experience at a certain point. But you shouldn't be tailoring your reviews to the lowest common denominator. You should be tailoring your reviews to the audience who's actually going to read this.
Yeah.
Or watch this kind of thing. And trust me, if this becomes the blanket rule, there will be the exceptions to the rule. There will be people who make YouTube channels about being a shitty gamer and just corpse dragging their way through a video game. Terrible about it.
Hell, Conan O'Brien has a series, The Coolest Gamer.
Yeah, the coolest gamer. Yeah.
Oh Jesus! All right, man. Anybody else want to jump in on this?
What was it? What was the question again?
Manny, so basically he's asking, should reviews be done by 3 guys of 3 different skill sets?
No, I agree with what you said originally, where it should just be the guy. It should be the fighting games guy. It should be the the first person shooty guy,
sports guy. People that
but at the same time,
people,
like Chris said, you should have a gamer review games.
Obviously, you should have a gamer review those sorts of games, but you'll have a guy like, oh yeah, I hate fucking fighting games, and I'm have to review this fighting game.
Yeah, but
don't get the guy who doesn't like music games to review music games. You know what I'm talking
exactly.
about?
So that's the problem. It's like, okay, yes, you could have a gamer there, but there's also gamers there are also people that have specific preferences. So why not go for the people that have those strengths in those fields rather than have just saying, okay, Bill, you can write and play some games.
I think we just came up with a new format for game reviews: the professional, the critic, and the idiot.
That's gonna be our new show on Throwdown. Watch it this Tuesday.
I just don't like. They used to have that back in EGM days. There were specific guys that were the same guys you would hear from when a certain type of genre of game would show up. All of them did it. So
yeah, here's the thing though. I've read reviews from multiple people, and it always turns into the same thing where everybody's very timidly putting their opinion in and very weighing very heavily on the opinion factor, like, oh, I think about this, and the end result is nobody really tries to give a comprehensive, unbiased approach at giving you the information that you're looking for. So it just kind of turns into this weird written version of the View kind of thing where like, oh, I like this about it and I didn't like this about it. Like, you know what, granted, none of us can be completely unbiased, but a professional game reviewer will try to be unbiased enough to give you all the information that you need to know about the game. And whenever you have multiple hands in that pot, it ends up being this fucking weak-ass, limp-wristed attempt to kind of let everybody share a little bit about how they feel like a video game. It's kind of like if you go to a book club. Yeah, people are going to talk about the books. Nobody's going to give a proper synopsis. Nobody's going to summarize it. And none of these motherfuckers are going to get in-depth enough to actually explain to you the subtext. They're all going to be like, I like the main character, Joe. So while it's not a bad idea, the end result is always watered down journalism and coverage of something that should be more comprehensive because it's just this tiny smattering of a bunch of different little opinions.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the whole thing because, again, what my belief on this is all video game reviews are opinions, but you're right about that. It's your opinion, but at the same time, you need to really get in depth with all the game's mechanics and stuff, and definitely don't throw in your fucking politics in these reviews either. Well,
no, and that's what I'm saying. No, they are always going to be biased, but you try to be fair and comprehensive.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's just a good game reviewer. By the way, Brett, just a quick thing. I realized the type of reviews I would personally give, like be the most unbiased with games I'm not that familiar with. Which it sounds ironic, like if you give me an RTS review, I'll probably be like, okay, Tony, take out all the fluff, just talk about the fucking game. Because I don't know enough about it. You can't be
unbiased, but you could be aware of your own bias and try and right the boat, so to speak. You could say, like, this thing isn't for me, but
I would just say
people who enjoy these types of games would probably really dig this.
I still got in, by the way, it's funny, I got in trouble for that when I reviewed Drakengard 3, which I still thought was a trash game. And I did specifically say, I don't like these type of games. The people in the comments scorched me. It was hilarious, but I was being honest. Like, I don't like these kind of fucking games, and they're like, why did you review that? And it's like, because there's only 5 people on this website and nobody else had as much experience with these type of games as I did, even though I don't like them,
but that could be perfect. Like, even
but the thing is that what you do, but despite that, you still give it a fair shake.
Oh, I thought it was fair. I just thought it was a bad game. That's why I think
you gave there was a
version of that.
There's a better, the thing is that at the time of playing it, like, you played quite a bit of games that were on, that you reviewed for STFU and Play and the Coalition that you really didn't, play that genre.
And this was for DualShockers. They made me play a lot of Japanese games, but I try to be fair. It goes back to that. You got to be fair and you got to be a fucking gamer. I'm sorry. You can't just have people who never play games or these idiots that only played games in the 360 era thinking hard games are Dark Souls games reviewing games. These guys are fucking morons.
Dude, Dark Souls is a great example. You didn't like Dark Souls at first, but then you kind of warmed up to it. I'm not going to say it's your favorite game ever. but it's not like you're unwilling to look beyond your own nose and have a new experience and say, you know what, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I actually enjoyed this more than I thought.
Yeah. Oh,
that's a perfectly valid place to review something from.
Yeah, when I realized Dark Souls is eventually modern Castlevania, I'm like, okay, I'm hooked. This is awesome. You know. Anyway,
just go back to our old shows, and you hear how much he's like, "What this fucking game? Fuck this shit." He was essentially the same shit that Hip Hop Gamer was saying.
Yeah, right. I didn't talk about frame rates though,
or artificial difficulty.
I didn't talk about that either. You know, I remember when it was Demon Souls that turned me off. That game was fucking crazy. I was like, listen, I played these type of games when I was a kid. I'm not trying to beat myself up like this anymore. Fuck this shit. You know, but I respected it for what it was. At least some other people can't bring themselves to do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they'll shit on a game just because they don't like the genre. It's like, no, if there's still something good in there, you got to acknowledge that too. You can't just shit on it. For example, I don't like fucking sports games. I'll acknowledge how, you know, if they're good or not, you know.
Maybe this is the one that you will like. That's always the thing. Like, I don't like racing games. Well, maybe this is the one racing game that you will like. Like, I'm generally not a huge racing game fan. I love Burnout. I love F-Zero. I love Mario Kart. Like, I apparently like some racers. I just don't really get into the Forza type games. Okay, cool. Maybe you'll make a Forza game that's so good that I'll be like, oh man, this game's amazing. I'm willing to give it a shot. And I'm starting to think I like the taste of Crow. Like, challenge my perceptions. I will give it a try. And I will be happy to eat my words, because if I eat my words on something like that, it means I found something that I enjoy and I love. So I mean, it's kind of like trying new food. Like, yeah, you may be convinced that you're not going to like it, but give it a try. And I think that's a perfectly valid place to give a review from. I think so. I'm not going to probably like this game, but if I do like it, then that is something very impressive and noteworthy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man, let's move on here. Second question. This is another interesting one. He goes, would you rather have, and I'm going to take this nice and slow now, would you rather have more AA games like Rocket League that are very polished and fun to play at a low price, a few great AAA games throughout the year, or a lot of excellent indie games throughout the year? What would you rather have?
Indie games.
So you would forego AAA games for a whole ton of indie games.
I'll be honest.
Games become polished and they become AAA. So that's just how it works.
And here's how it is. Like, maybe I'm just getting old and I'm sitting down on my chunk of the ice floe, ready to push off from the rest of you guys. But I am really just unimpressed with AAA games in the last couple years. They've all turned into this weird amalgamation of Assassin's Creed. Plus, it's all the games are essentially, they're turning into the same games, and I'll be honest, I'm getting really bored of the AAA experience because it's all fucking Horizon.
But you like Zelda, and Zelda's AAA.
That's AAA out the ass.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, and that's one of the reasons I love Zelda so much, is because it's something kind of different. But you know,
name something from Zelda that's different from any other game that's ever come out.
Game mechanics with interplay.
What? That's a really, really like broad term.
No, game mechanics that work together. Like, I love games where they set you a very simple set of rules, and then you're allowed to use and abuse those mechanics however you see fit.
Pong is, you can use that for Pong, man.
Well, I mean, the thing is that if you're talking about game systems that work together, I mean, if you think about it, most open world games have game things that work together. You know, if you're talking about the car physics or a lot of the other things that work in tandem with each other. You know,
I am talking about that, and some other games have them, and I do really like those. Like, I love Red Faction for that very reason. I like a game where you can set something on fire, push it around, drop it down on stuff, make things explode. Like, I like, and I also really like emergent storyline games where you kind of build your own narrative. I appreciate games that don't hold your hand. I appreciate games that let you explore in your own pace, and I appreciate games that don't necessarily have you press a button to instigate an action. You kind of wander into an area and something happens, and it's not all pre-scripted or choreographed. And that's where Zelda really diverged from, let's say, Horizon, because at the end of the day, I say Zelda and Horizon are very similar styles of games, very similar games in the sense of the idea that they're trying to do, but they ended up presenting themselves in very, very different ways. And the ways that Zelda is different than Horizon are the reasons that I like it. There's not really any restriction on where you can go, what you can do. There's no level caps or unlocking new areas. You can freely explore the terrain. The game doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't give you a map. It's an emergent storyline. So I find games like Horizon, as good and polished as that game is, to essentially be the poster child of this is what all games have become. And yes, we're evolving that type of game to the point of just a mirror polish. But I've played this game before. I've played these types of games before. Like I'm even already a little bit pre-burnt out on the new Assassin's Creed just because I've played this before. Shadows of Mordor, I've played this before. Far Cry, I've fucking played this before. Like, I've played all of these before, and the only places that I see games diverging from this is indie games. And then the indie games that really kick on to something special get polished eventually into AAA games. So,
all right, Manny, what do you say? What's your answer?
You
forgot the question again? Yeah, you knew it. Yeah. Okay, so if you had an option, you could only choose one, what would you rather have? More AA games, a few AAA games, or a ton of indie games per year?
I would go more AA games.
All right. Any reason why?
I feel like the AA is kind of an overlooked market, or genre, or whatever you want to call it. I feel like there should be, it's always big and small. It's nothing in the middle. And I feel like that's the portion that needs to be expanded.
All right. I like that answer. Chris.
Well, what counts as AA? Is like Gravity Rush
AA?
Like
Gravity Rush, I would say, is probably AA. He gave his example was Rocket League,
Yeah, but I wouldn't play Rocket League. If you tell me like Gravity Rush and stuff, then yeah, I would agree with Manny and say AA. I would rather
if it's like if it's along those lines, it's not a fucking.
I don't think I would consider Rocket League AA.
I would not.
No, Rocket League's
a straight up
That's an indie game.
Straight up indie game that just caught on.
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, games that I would consider AA games
are like Mercenary shit like that, from back in the PS2 era,
like Mercenaries, or even if we're going now, we're talking Hellblade, maybe we're talking Gravity Rush, we're talking.
Hellblade is an indie game too.
Yeah, Hellblade's an indie game, but it does fit in that middle area.
Chris, basically games like THQ used to make.
Pretty much, THQ's games.
Yeah, that's what I would want, right? That's what I would want. Because AAA is getting sad at this point, and they're either going to turn out MOBAs because esports makes money, or they turn out the same generic shit. So that's what we got right now.
For Honor now is esports. I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah, it is. It was designed to be too.
It's a button masher. It didn't turn out the way they wanted it to be.
Yeah, and indies is hit or miss. You get a really good game, or you could get a really bizarre, weird experience that you might not like. So I'll take the middle.
Fair enough. All right, Carlos, man, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'd say AA as well. I think their AAs are not subjugated to the Assassin's Creed Call of Duty disease as much as AAA studios are. So I think they have more diversified catalogs and stuff like that. So I think I'd rather have that than
you wouldn't consider From Software AA, would you?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, then I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just gonna jump in, right? Because let's just be honest, man. Most indie games are fucking trash, right? There's some good ones. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of them is a lot of shovelware. Brett, you and I talked about this. Like, go on Steam. There's a lot of bullshit on there.
Yeah.
Then there's some that are great that just fall through the cracks, like what we talking about with Chris, Mother Russia. Bleed from Mother Russia. That is a fun one, and people just don't know about it, and it didn't really get much hype. But they always like, oh, I love Final Fight and Streets of Rage. Well, there you go. Because that's what this is.
Well, if we're qualifying the new definition,
your guy gets hooked on drugs. He gets hooked.
If we're qualifying the new definition of AA as like low budget, big companies / highly polished indie game, I think that would probably be the magic mark, because that's where you're going to get the most variety and the most quality, because that's where the rising indie games meet the kind of back shelf console games. Like the Souls games, for instance, where they really weren't invested in super heavily, but they were crafted definitely in a professional environment. And then so that's where you meet like the games like Rocket League, which became so successful that they polished themselves, continued to reinvest in themselves, and kind of broke out of the stratosphere of indie games into AA games. That's where that meets the Dark Soulsy kinds of games, or the games that they're taking a chance on, so they're not really wanting to invest a shitload of money. That's where all the gems really come from.
Another game I would call a AA game is the Puppeteer.
Yeah, that game has pretty decent production, and that's where I want to jump in, because this okay. I'm probably going to agree with you guys that it would be nice if we just saw more AA games, right? But the thing is, I really love AAA games. Like like it's like when you go to a movie, right? Like for me, I'm not going to go to a movie to watch some fucking indie movie. I want to see the biggest special effects, craziest explosions. That's the kind of shit I want to see. And the same
Deadpool. To put it to you this way,
Deadpool's a AA. Yeah,
that's a AA movie. So was Blade.
Exactly. Those games are, and if you get more of that, it'll be great too. But again, there's something special about like playing like a game that they poured a fuck ton of money into. They got the orchestras, the actors, the fucking like everything is just. I like seeing that, but at the same time, like Brett is saying, everything's becoming a Ubisoft game now, right?
Right.
So that's a problem right there. So yeah, if I had to eliminate, I could only pick one. I'll go with AA games, even though they won't be like as highly polished or less like cinematic or theatrical as like a AAA game. There's still going to be more of them, and they're probably going to be more fun and varied.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way, Tony. So you like Civil War and Avengers and all that stuff and that comic book experience.
Yeah.
What if all your superhero experiences became Batman v Superman? What would you say?
Oh God.
And that's where we're at now.
Oh.
That's where we're at.
But to be fair, though, Civil War is a big, giant, fucking AAA movie.
Well, so it's Batman v Superman.
Yeah, I know, but
in there.
Horrible. But yeah, that's my answer. Brian, man, what about you?
I say more AA, because the AAA industry, as Brett said, has just turned like a bunch of mess. Like every game is literally becoming the same nonsense, which is. I don't know why, but it seems to be just every single thing is just like, hey, it's a third-person action-adventure game with some stealth in it. And you can start off doing stealth stuff, and then, oh no, stealth has gone wrong. Now you shoot everything up. It's like, either that or Call of Duty. And it's like, really? Like, this is like where we've like ended up to? Where every game can just like distilled into like the same like 4 or 5 things. It's literally like, there's like a format like make a game these days. It's like, okay, you want a first person or third person? Because if it's first person, then put a gun in your hand, put in some kill streaks, and make everything just blow up. Or if it's third person, put in like some leveling system up in there, put in a crafting system, put in some stealth.
But it's always been like that. I mean, Ghost Recon, that series is old as hell, and that's pretty much it. What you just said, it's like stealth or shoot or.
Yeah, but what's Ghost Recon now? It's a giant fucking open world game like everybody else.
And it has all those elements. It's still Ghost Recon. It's more of what people wanted. Everyone was like, man, if only I could just keep going instead of doing a weird cutscene.
Is it Ghost Recon by name or Ghost Recon by gameplay?
By gameplay, yeah, it's by gameplay. It's still the same. Still plays the same.
I don't know. Again, I'm not a Ghost Recon fan, so I have no idea. I'm just asking. But still, I'm just tired of the AAA market. It seems like it's just gone stagnant.
Yeah.
And it's just a mess, and I can't stand it.
Well, all they're aiming for is revenue generation, not any type of originality or story.
That's how you get.
Not what driving things.
That's how you get Destiny. That's how you get.
Well, and that's the inherent problem with AAA games is they require such an investment that you almost need to guarantee at least some return on that investment, and by necessity are going to have to homogenize the game for a wider audience, right?
And going back to our previous conversation or previous question, that's why Microsoft finds itself in a rut. All they want to invest in is AAA games. That's why they're not taking any risks. That's the problem right there.
They're looking for surefire,
guaranteed,
as opposed to kind of like, all right, we put some money into this. We threw something at the wall. We didn't make an incredible investment in this, but hey, it's doing really well for us.
Yeah. All right, Adam, you go, and then we'll move on. What do you pick?
Wait, what?
Out of these, which one do you pick?
I'll have to go with AAA because that's what brings the market. That's what motivates the market. That's the same thing that can apply to everything.
I'm talking about for you personally. Yeah, I'm talking about for you personally.
Yeah, that's it. That's me personally.
Okay.
You know, I prefer to just have a AAA experience. I want to have a real experience. Little indie games, I'm too old. I've done it all. I played those. You know, I want to be loud.
Just so we're clear, so you want to have like maybe 6 AAA games a year.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't need a lot.
All right, fair enough. By the way, that was almost my original answer, but then these guys kind of convinced me with the AA shit. All right, moving on here.
Yeah, I want to point out that was the fastest I had made, served, and eaten grow ever. It took you guys like 30 seconds to be like change my mind. I was like, wait a minute. I was completely wrong on that thing that I just said.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because I would jump in, I'm like AAA games. Of course, I'd rather have 6 of those. But then it's like, ooh, you guys kind of convinced me with the AA's. All right, man.
I mean, it's a realm where you have games like Beyond Good and Evil. You know, the original.
Who really liked that game?
Oh, that game!
It's a good game. It's actually a very good game.
I don't know. I just
no, because you never played it, and it's one of those games you're not interested in.
Wait, you didn't play that game? You can't talk. That game was amazing.
I played it.
No, Adam, man, he's talking to Adam.
Yeah, if Adam didn't play, Adam can't talk shit.
Why did they wait so long then? If it was that good, why'd wait so long?
Well, here's the thing. Why did it wait so long? Because the game didn't do well.
There you go.
It was one of those situations.
So Adam, you're saying because the game didn't sell well, it's not a good game?
No, I'm saying that if it didn't sell well and the developers had no real backing on or the publishers, then that's it. If they had no faith, if they had faith in it, they were like, you know what, let's give it another shot.
Well, Ubisoft made a huge marketing mistake with the release of Beyond Good and Evil because it released next to Splinter Cell 2 or 3. They released them at the same time.
But aren't those 2 different types of games, though?
Yes, okay. The same publisher, they have to spend the same dollars on them, you know?
Also, they did a terrible job. They did a terrible job of actually explaining to people what Beyond Good and Evil 2, Beyond Good and Evil was. It had very kind of kiddie graphics and a cartoony look to it, but underneath it covered a really dark adult story. You didn't really know what you were in for until you actually started playing it, and they didn't really do a good job of broadcasting what the game actually was. It kind of had the tone of like of almost Oddworld, and Oddworld was much better at portraying like this is kind of edgy, a little bit darker. They only showed you the beginning because they didn't want to reveal the narrative, which is fine, but not enough people bought because the beginning of the game is pretty happy, cheery, and then it goes dark pretty fast, and they didn't portray that very well in the marketing. So nobody really knew what to make of it. And it was only after people had played it, kind of like fucking Bloodborne. Like, they weren't banking on it. It was only after people had played it that they were like, this game is really good, and told other people, which caused other people to play it. And so it was a very slow burn type of game, but it didn't garner enough to actually get good. It's like Firefly.
All right, man, let's move on, guys. Let's move on. All right. G Megaforce 123. He asks, food you've wanted to try from video games. He goes, while playing games, I've stumbled across dishes that I've wanted to taste or try and make myself. Are there any dishes from video games you've played that looked or by description sounded appetizing enough to make you want to recreate them or at least eat a similar version? All the food from Final Fantasy 15. All of that shit I want to eat.
Which is 90% Japanese food.
Yes, it's good. It looks good. That's the shit I want, you know? And a Chocobo burger, too, I guess.
I need a Chocobo burger. Here's my question. Why does all food in anime appear to be made of Jell-O?
What do you mean? By the way, that's nothing to do with our question here, dude.
Well, like most food in video games, you can't really see them. You can't really see them eating. And so it doesn't necessarily make me hungry. But every time I see people eating an anime, it's always just this weird, like, there's no give to the food. It just, like, it cuts through, like it's the consistency of store-bought Salisbury steak. That just kind of, like...
Yeah. No, I see what you're, but I'm laughing because what Kal-El said in the chat, he goes, Streets of Rage beef. Remember the beef you find in fucking
Find a garbage can?
cans?
Yeah. Well, my answer is going to be wall chickens, man. Castlevania, you just break open that wall, you find a turkey in there. Wall chicken,
Yeah,
man.
there you go. I want those apples too, you know.
It's the easiest thing to cook in the world. You just break open a wall, and there it is.
But Brad, you're right though. It's like there has this weird kind of substance to it, you know, or look of weird substance.
I kind of want to like. I want to eat a cheeseburger that's the same consistency as the cheeseburgers you see people eating in anime.
Yeah, because it's like, what are they made of? Like air? Like, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Final Fantasy because they literally just took pictures of food and threw it in the game.
Well, they actually modeled that food, as I remember.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they took the food and then they 3D scanned it and all this other shit, you know. But it was real food. All that was real food. But yeah, I like that answer though. The burger, you know, the any food you find in a beat 'em up game, you know, like who left this hamburger in the fucking toll booth, you know?
Isn't the what was that the thing that was called the Awesome series where there was one part where it was like it essentially just shows all these stupid things that in video games, and one of them was like, you know, the guy punches the canister and he's like, oh man, chicken, and he eats it and he starts throwing up.
Like who leaves an entire chicken inside of a phone booth, man?
Yeah, right.
Dude, I love any game that doesn't have food. Like I love survival games that do have food spoilage, but now it's made me any game that you run around like Skyrim. Like, let me eat this wheel of cheese that's been laying in the bottom of my backpack for 6 or so weeks.
Shit.
I also have some old meat and a couple eggs. I'm like, none of that is refrigerated.
Yeah. By the way, Logic Win says the food in Yakuza. I'll vouch for that too. And the hard rockin' guy says TMNT pizza.
What about the food in Persona? Persona 5.
Oh yeah, like the coffee and shit, the curry and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
That food at the buffet, man. Remember that buffet?
Ooh, the buffet, yeah, and the fucking. I don't even like sushi. I'm like, I want to try that sushi they're eating.
Sushi's good, man. You should try that shit.
I had sushi. It was bad. I didn't like it. You know.
But it's because you probably went to a bad place.
Yeah, it was in fucking Queen Center Mall.
Oh come on, that is bullshit.
Oh,
that's
Mike
not really good sushi.
Mike was eating this shit, saying, "Oh my god, this thing is so good. You got to try one." So I had one. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? You know?
Nah, you should get some. If you're gonna get sushi, you get some good sushi, not some fucking shit from Queen Center Mall. Fuck that place.
Not to derail the conversation, but my thing with sushi is like, yo, fry that shit up. Why are you eating it raw? Like,
you can have a Godzilla roll. Godzilla roll is cooked.
There you go. But yeah, the food in Persona looks good. I want that. You know, a lot of JRPGs in there, like the Tales games, always have this crazy ass food I want to try. You know, like I want to make that shit. All right. Anybody else want to jump in on this? Melon Daddy, go ahead and ask it. We'll toss it into the end of the show. All right. I guess nobody else wants to go, so we'll go to the next question.
Food and games. Yeah, food and games. I was pretty much trying to think of what was in there, but you know what? Wasn't there?
I already said wall chicken.
There was a wall chicken. Wasn't there like some pretty good food in like Shenmue?
I think so. I know there's vending food shit, you know.
Yeah, there was vending machines in the.
It was vending machines,
like the 7-Eleven place on the way back to your house.
Yeah, there was only that. I mean, and I think you could go to a ramen place. Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, no. I mean, granted, I think food and games. You know, but here's the thing: food in games and in animation are always superly rendered because
it's really realistic. Yeah.
It always looks really good and realistic. I'm also guilty of that too. For one of the shows that I've worked on, I've always actually rendered the food because I was hungry. So
you're hungry.
Yeah, I mean, we do a hamburger, and I make sure the hamburger was a little bit more detailed than everything else because I was like, man, we got to make this look good. It's got to look appetizing.
All right, man. Next question here. Okay, this is a funny one. Does your life resemble a linear video game or an open world video game? He goes, mine resembles a linear game for sure. I wake up usually in the afternoon because I stay up late, play video games, browse laptop, eat shit, shower, repeat. I have a few classes each Tuesday and a few dinky work shifts on Fridays and Saturdays from about 5 p.m. to 8 or 9 p.m. That's pretty much my life at the moment. Isn't pretty much everybody's life linear if you think about it? Like
we all have routines. We all have routines.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But let's just be honest. Everybody's life is obviously open world because we live in the real world, you know. But yeah, everybody sticks to a specific routine unless you're like, you know, James Bond or something, always going around the world and shit, you know. Everybody pretty much has routines. You know, you wake up, you go to work, you know, you play some games, fuck your wife, and go back to sleep, do it all over again. You know, everybody has routines. You know, so your life isn't that much different than anybody else's, dude. In case you thought otherwise, you know, most people's lives are pretty mundane.
Here's the thing: if it were a true open world game, none of us would be actually in this room right now. We'd be wandering in the desert somewhere, or driving to someplace interesting.
Mine is.
I gotta say, no, wrestlers.
You have a
wrestlers
routine.
have it.
You have a routine too.
Indie pro wrestlers have it. Look up Matt Cross. Matt Cross is all over the world. He's in Afghanistan. He's in Brazil. He's in New England. He's in London. He's, you name it, in Germany. And he's every week somewhere else because he has no set job.
Is his name
Matt Cross?
Matt Cross.
Matt Cross.
Like
That's his real name.
Like the cartoon.
Yeah, no, that's his real name. Wow, damn, he has a bunch of indie names.
So I don't know if he's a fan of Matt Cross.
So you can guarantee that guy is going to be in a different place every week?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty linear.
Yeah.
My life doesn't have nearly the routine or structure that most people does. It used to, especially when I was, you know, doing more comic stuff. But as I'm not doing that right now because I'm doing the whole just hanging out for a year thing. Sorry to make a dark turn.
Son of Havoc. That's his main name. Son of Havoc.
All right. Go ahead, Brett.
I don't. My life is more like a survival game. Like I don't keep a lot of groceries in the house, so I wake up just about daily, and I get to make my own hours. I tattoo on my own, which are kind of like picking up side quests, and so every week I have a different schedule and I have different little things that I need to do in different times. You know, I have certain meetings every other week, and then, you know, Wednesdays twice a month I do this, and then, you know, like we're closing the shop on Tuesday to go out and ride roller coasters. But you know, so like I don't really have a set schedule. I just kind of have a resource bank that I need to pay constant attention to. A finances bank. So like sometimes it'll be wake up and be like, okay, I need to make money in order to buy food to continue to do this thing, or I want to buy, you know, do this thing. So I take on a tattoo job, which is like taking on a side quest, and I make the money, and then I go out, I buy my food, I cook it, I come home. But there's not, so it's kind of like a Shemnu routine, I guess. But I equate my life more to a survival-ish game because I don't really have a routine, just a pool of resources that I'm constantly managing, and each week is different.
I would think a homeless person has more of that type of life.
Yeah, they definitely have a survival.
Because that you have options. You know,
you have a job.
Person, a job that you have to still report to. You know, a homeless guy is just every day. Who knows what the fuck's gonna? He could just be dead.
Yup.
I have a job, but my job is made of like a bunch of little jobs. Like when Manny takes on a job, he's signed on for a period of at least weeks to months. Even if it's a small job. When I take on a job, it's usually for the span of like 5 to 6 hours worth of prep work, and then 2 to 3 hours worth of actual work.
Your work is essentially commission work.
Yeah, I do a lot of quick pace commission work, and so I never really know what I'm doing. And like, so like, do I have, and I book out a few weeks in advance, but like, do I know what I'm doing next month? No, I have no idea. Could I be doing a giant, you know, crucifix across a guy's back? Maybe. Could I be out in Colorado? Possibly. Like, and I also do a lot of traveling too. And I'm starting to do a lot more traveling with my tattooing. I'm going to Colorado next month. I'm going to Hawaii this winter. I'm going to start booking more conventions. So it's just a matter of like, well, what goes on this week and what goes on this month. So as much as you can without being, just a roving fucking bandit. And when I say survival games too, like keep in mind, like I play Ark. They're just, you have a base in Ark. You have a place where your workstation is, but every day you got to go out and collect yourself some resources in order to build the tools necessary to harvest the food necessary to keep feeding yourself so that you can play for another day. And that's exactly what life feels like to me.
You live in real life Ark.
Really,
Everybody's walking around with their pants off.
or kind of similar to Rust, just a really low stakes game of Rust. But still, that general grind. Like, I don't think you need to be transient to live in an open world. You just, it's not the same routine.
Yo,
I'm
Tony,
not
you're
stuck
muted.
in a hallway.
All right, I had my fucking self muted. All right, anyway, let's move on here to Mr. Himdeal, who has a question for Brian. So he goes, Warframe Plains of Eidolon looks fantastic. What are your thoughts about the support DE continues to bring to the game? What do you think about this expansion? I continue to be excited about this game. This is how you do free to play.
I am half excited, half kind of not excited. Okay, on the plus side, it's great that we have more content in a free-to-play game. It actually is a good way of showing that to the community that the devs actually care, and they don't want to just make a standard game where they're just like, hey, we'll sell you this game for $60 and then that's it. It's more like, okay, cool, you know what, we'll give you this game and then we will support it until you stop it.
I saw a version of that game that's like $90. It was a $70 and a $90. What is all that?
That's probably like the the premium currency.
That's pretty high though. I was like, whoa, I thought there was a free to play.
Yeah, it is. It's free to play. Like, the in-game, the premium stuff is more for like your upgrades and it's for upgrading like your arsenal. But you still play the whole game without spending without even spending anything at all. Like, it's possible just to play the game and then sell items and then get the premium currency and then spend that on other stuff. So you can actually go through and not have to spend a single dime. But anyway, yeah, I do like it the fact that it is more content. It's up showing a bunch of AAA devs, and the fact that like on how you deliver content to your users. However, I am not too sure because DE have a bad habit of when they introduce new mechanics and new gameplay and new resources, they tend to tie it down to different requirements which aren't really that great, and they force like a gradual grind. Like some of the weapons they have released, you literally are there's like this one weapon that is literally unattainable if you're by yourself. Like, you can't get it. And just to show you just how bad it is, I've been playing this game for like since the closed beta. So and in total time, that's 2,500 hours, and I still have not unlocked it yet because resource bar is like so high. So that is a big concern for myself. But on the whole, I do like it because one, it's more content, and two, this content is different. It's not just like, hey, like we'll give you like the same type of content. It's like they are varying up with the type of content that they give you. So I am excited, and hopefully it will not be bad at all. But I don't know. I'm just like sat here and waiting with bated breath.
Awesome. All right, moving on here to our friend Black Metal Gamer. So he goes, okay, we as gamers usually and always discuss or ask about the advancements of games, but my question is, what about the controllers we use? What innovations can you see for the future of console gaming controllers, or are they fine already as they are? I'm going to save myself for a little bit later here. I'm going to jump to Manny first. Manny, what do you think?
I mean, I'm pretty happy with the controller situation. I mean, I don't. To be honest, I feel like we're at the maximum of buttons that we could use on a fucking controller.
As somebody who has a Pro, I mean, that adds a bunch of additional buttons.
Man, you didn't hear they're going to bring back the Atari Jaguar controller, man.
Oh God! And here's the thing: those buttons weren't even really used in normal gameplay. To be honest, like sometimes they would put items behind them, like hey, you can get your gun or something like that. But yeah, no, I think we're good. I think other than I would say the biggest thing I could say to a controller would be the ability, and this is already possible with the Elite Xbox controller, but allowing you to buy a controller and buying parts for your controller to kind of customize the type of experience that you want to have on your controller. I mean, use you as an example. You like having a certain type of D-pad on your controller, right?
Yeah.
How awesome would it be if you could just pop that out and put on one that was, that was more to your liking?
Module controller.
Yeah, because you know how I feel about the PlayStation D-pad. I've never liked that thing.
You never liked the fact that controller is like separated in the center. Like you really want that center area of the thing there.
Yeah.
I would say, at least for me, I would I kind of like a little bit of a looser if I'm talking about Xboxes, I like a little bit of a looser analog stick for my movement, for the left analog stick, stuff like that. So I would say different types of, having more of those options where you can kind of make your own customized controller.
Yeah, Chris, what do you say?
Well, I'm good right now. I like Manny's idea. I think MLG makes custom versions of the Xbox and PlayStation controller where you could swap where things are laid out. But overall, using the DualShock 4, even the Xbox One controller, I'm happy with it.
They're really good controllers.
Play my Steam games with an Xbox controller, and it's really good. So I don't see how I'm not an engineer or anything. I can't see how you make this much better.
Yeah,
I have an idea.
Go ahead, Brian.
Better button placement. Is it just me, or am I the only one that sees that just is like a bit annoyed at the fact that the button placement on these controllers is completely just wasted? Like if you pick up, if you are near your console right now, just go up and pick up your controller, right? You notice that your hands will inherently go to wrap around the parts that stick out, and then your index fingers will go to where the shoulder buttons are, and then your thumbsticks, your thumbs rest on the thumbsticks. That means that your middle finger, your ring finger, and your pinky finger are just floating in space. Like they don't put anything at the back of these controllers, and I have no idea why. And there's something that I noticed on the Steam controller that they have buttons at the back. Well, 2 buttons at the back, exact. And even though it's a very small thing, it means that you're actually using the whole of the controller and not just the front facing. Because I noticed this problem. I'm trying to remember what game it was. There was some game where it required me to take my fingers off the thumbsticks to do something with the face buttons to do some stuff. I can't remember what it was. But there's one game in particular, and I'll remember it, and I'll throw it in the chat at some point. But there's some game where I had to take off my fingers off the thumbsticks to touch the D-pad or the face buttons, and I just said to myself, this feels very cumbersome. It's it doesn't feel very natural. It feels like I'm having to move more than I should. It's a controller, everything should be in my hand at the same time, and it's not working here. So I say that they should move some buttons to the back. So maybe where your ring finger is, or your middle finger, because usually your ring finger and the middle finger tend to be the 2 most stronger ones out of those 3. So have something there, maybe a 2 more buttons or something, because I feel like that space is just being wasted. This is something that I said with the DualShock 4. It was the DualShock 4. Yeah, the touchpad on the DualShock 4 is in the wrong place. It should be at the back, not the front. Because the fact that it's at the front, it means that you need to take off your fingers, take your thumbs off the thumbsticks, and actually interact with it. Because it's
like the Vita.
It's in that right. It sounds like you're advocating what the Vita has with the touchback controls.
Yeah, do that. I have no issue with that. I'm this is how you do controllers. You make sure that all of it is being utilized at the same time. Don't just put the damn thing at the front where you need to lift your fingers off thumbsticks. Fucking called thumbsticks for a reason, and then interact with it. No, you put it at the back. It makes more sense to put something at the back. Because I noticed this when I was playing Tearaway. I'm oh wow, they have touch stuff at the back of the Vita. This is great. This is exactly what you need. the space here is not being wasted, and you can actually add like extra functionality here, and it's great.
All right, Carlos.
Yeah, I don't really mind the way like for me the Xbox 360 controller is like almost perfect except the
I
D-pad.
loved it. I loved it.
I still use it.
controller.
Yeah, like I don't really there's nothing really else like yeah, I guess no I don't like motion controls, so don't that's not the future. Don't do that. Yeah, just fix the D-pad. Make the control has to be big enough to like sustain my hands, like not like a freaking like a Vita or a Switch where like the buttons are so small. That's pretty much it.
All right, let's do a test here. Brett, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. All right. And we see you too, man. Looking handsome as always. So yeah, controllers. What do you say? Is there any way to fix them, or do you think they're perfect? By the way, you didn't hear anything Brian just said, right? Because he made a really good point. He says there should be buttons in the back or something in the back because these fingers. He's right. These 3 fingers or 2 fingers are useless back there.
Steam controller has that.
He mentioned that.
Yeah.
It has little paddles in the back.
All right. So yeah, what do you think about game control?
Why I said that. I'm like, yeah, the Steam controller like did that, and it's great. Like put stuff at the back, like the Vita did.
What do you think about the haptic feedback thumbsticks?
It's very weird to get used to. It's incredibly weird. But it works in some games better than other games.
Yeah. I would say if you could. One of the things I really like is the Nintendo Pro controller. Like I've surprisingly fallen in love with the gyroscope on it. I don't know if other systems don't have the gyroscope in it in their controller, or if they just don't use it. And it's one of those things. It seems intuitive to me because ever since we were little kids, like you kind of always like do this as you're playing a game. And so it's nice when you can kind of integrate that subtly. My favorite is I really like how Breath of the Wild their aiming system is. I love headshotting with a bow because I can do my macro aiming with my joystick and then my micro aiming.
Gravity Rush.
Gravity Rush does the same thing.
Yes, Gravity Rush and Uncharted did it. Uncharted: The Golden Abyss.
So I'd like to see more of that put in. I'm not sure if that was on the Vita. So and that's my question. Like I don't know if
Gravity Rush obviously for PlayStation 4 does it still.
It does or does not?
It does. It does it still. Like in other words, you can aim her with your with the controller, or you can use the gyroscope.
Does the controller work well?
Yeah,
it
always
works well.
did.
Okay. I'd like to see more of that. So I'd like to see probably advancements in kind of gyroscope or maybe even place tracking technology in the controllers. And I don't want to see it done hammier in a shovel fisted like, do this to shovel kind of thing. I'd like to see it more just, subtle movements to, like maybe doing that, dodges to the left or doing that dodges to the right, or you do most of your macro aiming with your controller and then do all your micro aiming with your gyroscope. I think that's a better way to aim. And I think that if somebody found a really good way to utilize that you'd start seeing people playing competitively and having an advantage by doing that, and then you'd see it quickly become the norm. So
I completely disagree. Like if you want the most precise and the quickest way to aim, a mouse is the best way to do that. Like if you're doing it by moving and pointing like physically like at the location you're trying to aim to, that takes way longer to do.
No, well, then that's why I make the distinction of you use your macro aiming with your joystick still. I'm just talking about micro finite movement. It's so when your cursor's here, you can jump it just a little bit to the left to get a headshot by just kind of dipping your controller a little bit. The key here is not having to put a lot of effort in and deviating very little from the norm. I absolutely agree that a mouse is the best way to aim. However, I think a keyboard is the worst way to move. So you kind of have a trade-off there. I I'd like to see something that can marry the precision of a mouse with the movement of a keyboard, or the movement of a controller.
Eye tracking.
What's that?
Eye tracking. You could just track your eyes and aim with your eyes.
You know, some of the
VR.
stuff on VR does that, and it's honestly too fucking easy just to look at something and point a button. I liked how what was it, Riggs did it, where you still controlled your gun with your stick.
Oh,
but
no,
you
that's
actually-
head tracking.
Yeah,
Head tracking.
yeah. I enjoyed the fact that you could, you know, look a direction, but then you still had to aim and actually shoot somebody. And if we're talking about going down that route, like that's one of my big things about VR that I love is it adds another input without people even really thinking about it. It's very intuitive to just look around. And from playing games like DayZ, I've found the value of not necessarily having to look down the barrel of your gun all the time, to be able to aim at things and crouch and check your surroundings and look around stuff while keeping your gun trained on something is actually really cool and comes in handy quite a bit. So in terms of, I think we'll see a lot of, nobody knows how VR controls work real well yet. So we'll see a lot of advancement in that. And that'll probably be the blooming industry where you're going to see more and more, 10, 15, 20 years. Like this shit is definitely going to take a while to take off, but that's where a lot of advancements are going to be because people are still trying to figure it out. In terms of the perfect console controller, it would be something along the lines of a marriage between the Xbox Elite controller, the Nintendo Pro controller, and the Steam controller with the back paddles.
All right, Adam, what do you say?
The 360 to me was the best controller, and the next runner-up is the PS4. Shock, I like it. The D-pad, the touchpad could go, make it smaller and just do something. I think it takes up too much real estate on the controller itself.
For something that doesn't get used a lot.
Yeah,
use it just to bring up a map.
Giant button.
It's a giant button to use it just to bring up a map in most games. You just tap it. So if I'm just tapping it, why does it take up so much space on my damn controller? And besides that, and that's why I was surprised when they were like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do a redesign," and I'm like, "Okay, looking forward to that." And it was real subtle with the lights in the front. You still have the light. Why? Have an option at least to turn the shit completely off if you're not using it. But all you can do is dim it. It's weird. But yeah,
for me, this is the way I see it. Right? There's a reason why basic game control design, and I'm going to bring up some examples. Right? Hasn't exactly changed for the last almost 20 years, right? It's kind of the way I see it with controllers is it's like a shark and a fucking alligator, right? They haven't evolved in 250 million years because their forms were already perfected. There's some slight deviations here and there, but they're perfect as is. Brian, you do bring up a very good point about the backs not being used, but all in all, I think this right here, this form design, 2 analog sticks, a D-pad, 4 buttons here, 2 buttons up there is absolutely perfect. You don't really need to fuck with the formula. But I also wouldn't be against putting something back here. Brian, here's a good example, right? I'm playing an action adventure game, right? I'm trying to move the camera, but I can't move the camera and jump at the same time. Wouldn't it be nice if I could move the camera and then press a button back there since my hand is already back there?
Have you ever tried the Xbox Pro controller?
Which one? The Elite?
The Elite, yep.
Yeah. I played Forza Horizon 6, I believe, at E3 with that. That controller is fucking nice. Yeah. That is a good fucking controller, man. Oh, by the way, even though,
what happened to that one they gave you? Or whatever that was?
This isn't the Elite. This is just like the...
Oh, didn't they give you something that was sort of like the Elite? You're like, wow, this is kind of...
Oh, yeah, the PlayStation one. Yeah, I got that back there. I really... The Xbox controller is really good, though.
Hey, Tony.
Really, yeah, what's up?
If you were playing in VR, you could.
What do you mean?
Move the camera and jump at the same time.
Oh yeah, but I would have to play in VR, and why would I want to do that?
Oh, man.
All right, man. Let's move on here to Mr. Actually, no, here we go. Last one from Mr. Black Metal Gamer. I actually have to write shit down for this one. Very good one. He goes, "What are your top 3 favorite gaming genres, and what are your favorite games for each of those genres?" Craziness. So I guess I'll go first, and I'm a little bit prepared here because I was like, oh, this is going to be crazy. So my favorite genre is action adventure. You know, I'm talking about shit like, you know, Assassin's Creed, God of War, fucking Tomb Raider, all that stuff. My favorite game out of that genre is Uncharted 2, with the first God of War being a runner-up, right? My second favorite genre would be JRPGs. I don't need to explain what a JRPG is. Still my favorite of all time is Skies of Arcadia, with Panzer Dragoon Saga being the runner-up there. And my third favorite genre is fighting games. I don't need to explain what a fighting game is. When it comes to my favorite fighting game, it's always a toss-up between Street Fighter Alpha 1 and 2, right? Street Fighter Alpha 1 has the better controls, but Street Fighter Alpha 2 has the, you know, bigger character roster. And my runner-up would be X-Men versus Street Fighter. So that's what I got.
Favorite genres of games.
Tony, what's X-Men? I seem to have forgotten that.
X-Men? Oh yeah, okay. So X-Men is this indie book, right? Yeah. Go ahead.
What's X-Men? I have forgotten that. Like, I like fighting games, but I don't know what X-Men is.
Yeah, I'll explain to you. X-Men is this really independent comic book. No one's really heard of it. You know, very small team, you know, that's outcast and shit like that. I'll explain it to you after the show. I know not everybody has heard of X-Men, but it's a good
Batman
game.
in there?
There's a Tiger Man in there, right?
Yeah.
Claws or something? Tiger Moon or something? I don't know.
It's ridiculous. But anyway.
I heard one of the characters actually had a movie pretty recently.
Yeah.
Not sure what his name is.
That's a lie.
Anyway, Manny, go. Favorite genres.
Favorite genres. I would have to say third-person action games are probably my favorite. I like those sorts of games. They just, you know, especially, you know, I would say like some of my favorites would be like
Gravity Rush.
Would be obviously, but not one like Gravity Rush, Eco. I would say, you know I still have very fond memories of Sonic Adventure and the original Mario 64. I really like that genre of games. They've kind of become a little bit of a bit of everything nowadays, where it's like, hey, you can shoot, you can jump, you can solve block puzzles. Yeah, but that's my favorite. Probably my second would be point and click adventures. I really love that sort of genre of game where it's not, it's not totally dependent on your, on the actual skill, but a skill, with your hands, but the things that you can figuring out puzzles and things like that. I like those sorts of games. Third, I would say RPGs, Japanese RPGs. There's a certain, it's an interesting thing, those sorts of games where they're just like Japanese things in general have this weird sort of outlook on things that just make them obviously Japanese. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know
cultural what differences. That's what it is.
It's definitely cultural differences that does it. Where it's like, how does this make fucking sense? We're in a fantasy. This is okay. When we're growing up as kids, fantasy meant, Dungeons and Dragons sorts of shit. Like, it's a knight and it's a
damn Brett.
It's a knight and a dog barking, and it's very like there's werewolves in the forest. In Japanese fantasy, it's like we live in steampunk world with flying boats, and we have TVs, but they can only broadcast in 2 colors. It's like, what? How does this even work? Magic. We harvest this stuff called materia from the earth, and it runs everything in our society.
Yeah, by the way, I do want to jump in. If you would have asked me this 20 years ago, I would say one of my probably my favorite genre was platforming games, right? But they don't really make those anymore. That kind of mechanic kind of got co-opted into action adventure games, you know. But I used to love that shit, and I don't make a distinction between 2D platformers and 3D platformers. It's all good, you know. I like that shit where you have to really just react and stuff. I like that. All right, Chris, what are your top 3 favorite genres?
Okay, I'd say first-person shooter, and my favorite one going back is Quake 2.
Oh shit.
Uh, uh, is RPG. So I say for RPG, like Final Fantasy VII was like blew my mind, exploded my brain. And a good runner-up though, I have to give it up Mass Effect 2, man. Mass Effect 2 is so good. Story's so good. And the third one, real-time strategy, and that would be StarCraft.
Awesome. All right, Carlos.
So it's the top 3 games for the top 3 genres, right?
Yeah. Like, what are your top 3 genres, and then what are your top games for each of those genres?
I don't think I mentioned.
Yeah, man, you didn't do it. You just listed your genre and you went on. You know, so you want to finish it off with what's your favorite third-person action game?
You know what it is.
Metal Gear.
Metal
You know what that is.
Isn't that really a stealth game though?
It's an action game. And it still fits under that genre. There's no real I think the stealth thing is just a subgenre. It's a third-person action game.
Okay, fair enough. That's how you see it. Okay, favorite RPG?
Favorite RPG, I would have to say, is favorite adventure game. I would have to go with Rise of the Dragon. It's probably one of my favorite ones. It was a Sega CD game and a PC game. It's not really the best example of one of those.
Yeah, but it's your favorite.
But it's one of my favorite. And then the third one was RPGs, and I'd have to say Final Fantasy IV.
Nice. All right, Carlos, go ahead, man.
So I would say Western RPGs, and Mass Effect has got to be in there. Mass Effect 2 is my favorite out of the whole series. Almost all the Elder Scrolls games, especially Skyrim and Elder Scrolls 4. What's the name? Fucking name?
What, Oblivion?
Oblivion. There you go. Oblivion. Also, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas. I freaking love. Fallout 3 and New Vegas more than 4, but they're still all pretty good.
Damn you, sir.
Another genre. I'm gonna say MOBA. Screw you
God.
Guys.
Oh God.
Heroes of the Storm, man. I love that freaking game. Like that, I can't stop playing that game. I play that game every day. So like, it's one of those games that is in my daily routine. And even though I haven't played that many, like I love Awesome Knots. Awesome Knots is like one of the games that I've played a lot too. I know Tony doesn't like it.
No, man, that game disappointed me, man. I was expecting side-scrolling shooting fucking Contra game, and I got whatever the fuck that game was, you know. I got suckered, man, because I saw that intro. I'm like, this is gonna be the greatest game of all time. No,
those games are like crack to me, man. I keep like they just make me keep playing. But yeah. So that's it for that. For third, it's a toss up between first person shooters and RTS. I'll say first person shooters. Halo 2 is the game I probably played the most out of any game I've ever played. I put in, like, there was no counter, but I put in so many freaking hours into that game, just playing multiplayer, like chilling in the chat. It had a chat system before, like it was even that popular. It had clans, which they're gonna reintroduce. So like people think that shit's new, but that shit's in Halo 2, man.
Yeah.
Modern Warfare also is like one of the games I have to mention. Call of Duty 4. It's just like a game that revolutionized the genre, and I know that the outcomes of what the success of that was detrimental to the industry, in my opinion. I still cannot hate on the game for being as great as it was. And yeah, there's a lot of games I can mention, but those are some of
them. All right. By the way, I want to give a quick shout out to our friend Barry Burden. He goes, I only like horror games with tank controls.
Nice.
Oh man. All right. They're cracking me up. All right, Brian, go ahead, man. Go. We cannot hear you, Mr. Brian.
Is Warframe a genre? Oh,
What
Alien
the
talk.
fuck?
Alien talk.
It's like he was inside like a black hole, and it was just like,
Damn.
Yeah, Brian, just
Brett.
log on and come back, man. We'll skip to Brett. Brett, go ahead.
I'm convinced that somehow Brian is being turned into a Dalek.
Oh no!
Damn.
All right, Brett, go ahead, man. Top 3 favorite genres and a game for each of them.
I'm still having problems like picking out genres.
Want me to come back to you?
No, I have too many.
You have too many. Pick
I have
3.
too many. I know. I'm gonna
Pick
say
the ones that you can't you just play that you play the most, and the one that you ones that you kind of keep going back to. That's the way
I really like open world multiplayer building games. Games like Rust and Ark, and to a certain extent DayZ. So I definitely put Ark at the top of that list, but it's still kind of it's a new genre of gaming that's still in development and still has a lot of kinks to work out. So that would be like an alpha kind of thing. So I kind of disregard that. So I'll go with turn-based RPGs. My favorite is XCOM. Open world Western RPGs, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and real-time strategy games. And I'd go with the Command and Conquer series. Just about any of them. Just about, not the last one.
All right, Adam.
First would be third-person shooter action games, Gears of War. That's for me. Second would be sports, and that's FIFA for life. That'll always be FIFA. And third would be first-person shooter, the Call of Duty series. I love them. I didn't like the new one, the space one. I think they need to cut that shit. And I'm glad that they're going back to the World War II and just do some other weird wars, but stop doing the space shit. Everyone's in fucking space. I'm tired of the space. Unless they go alien route, then that'll be different. But they're not gonna do it.
You like when they go back into time?
Yeah. Go back.
They should go back to the dinosaur era.
No, fuck that. That's when they lose me. That's it.
So before Brian gets back or while he's gone, what the fuck genre is Souls?
It's an RPG technically.
Oh man.
Is it? Oh,
Really?
then
That's what they call it. They call it an RPG.
then I gotta mention that as runner-up for me, man. Demon Souls, fucking great.
Yeah.
Yo, and by the way, shout out to fucking StarCraft. When Chris said it, I'm like, damn it. StarCraft, man. Oh my god.
I lost so much sleep on StarCraft, man.
The first one I did. Second one I sort of fell off.
No, the second one I fell off also.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not the only one then.
Yeah,
It's
StarCraft 2.
it's considered an action role-playing video game. Dark Souls is.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, almost every modern game has RPG elements to some extent.
I know it's been like sprinkled over everything now. Kind of like it annoys me to be honest. Like keep RPGs.
It's like, hey, you beat the shit out of something. You just gained a level. Oh shit!
It's like, man, this ain't an RPG, motherfucker. Don't steal shit.
Hey! But by the way, let me just add that one of the earlier games to do that before it was hot shit was the Bouncer.
Oh, the leveling up.
Yep.
Manny's gonna single-handedly bring that game back.
Yeah, I don't think you can qualify like being able to tailor your character as RPG anymore.
Yeah, not anymore, but it used to be that way.
It just the reason for the Bouncer, it was because the game was made by Square, and they felt because Square is known for RPGs more than any other genre, they injected RPG elements into what was pretty much just a beat 'em up.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right, I don't see Brian coming back, so we're going on to the next question.
RPG elements.
Yeah,
Remember every time you beat a boss, like Metal Gear Solid had RPG elements also. That silly shit where you do pull-ups. You get more
Metal Gear 2 had RPG elements where you just
You do pull, but the first game too. Every time you beat a boss, Snake would wipe his face and you get more health.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
But that's something that happened from older games.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that's true. When you beat a boss, you get some.
When you beat a boss, your energy would get a little bit higher or something.
Yeah. All right, let's move on, man. The last questions from Mr. Melon Daddy. These are two questions, but I'm going to mesh them into one because they're kind of related. His first question is, what do you think about the possibility of the Ryzen CPU being used in next-gen consoles? And do you think there will be a huge graphical leap in the next-gen like there was from the PS2, Xbox, the 360, and PS3? We've talked about this before. I don't think there's going to be that much of a huge leap anymore. I think we've kind of hit that ceiling as far as graphics go. So no, I don't think so.
Still a lot of room in the CPU to expand upon, so maybe we'll be able to actually see more of that.
That would be nice. But yeah, let's handle this Ryzen thing first. What do you guys think about that? Because I've been hearing
Ryzen.
Yeah, Ryzen, whatever. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it depends. Like the next gen manufacturers have to decide on an APU to put on their consoles. I don't know if they might go on the route of have a dedicated CPU and dedicated GPU and go it that way, but I doubt it. As far as a huge graphical leap, we're not gonna see that because the next gen consoles are coming out in 2-3 years.
And then they're still not going to be next gen. They're going to still be behind PCs by 2 or 3 cards. So.
And Ryzen,
as far as graphics goes, I think we've capped
Well,
out.
but Ryzen's are their processors, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
CPU.
With the CPU. But with the that's the CPU. But
So I mean, the question is about
more processing power help more video.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's been the choke point for years now, is they haven't been really putting a lot of CPU in. So if they're talking about putting high-end CPUs in next-gen consoles, then you open the door for things like more destructible environments or more interactive environments.
Or AI.
Well, it depends on timing because they have to develop an APU out of Ryzen, and that's what they haven't done yet. So that's what Carlos was talking about. You have to integrate Ryzen with the Vega GPU into one chip, right? So that's the hurdle that they
Why
that PCs
do
don't
they
have.
do that though? That's the thing. That's the part I don't
Manufacturing
understand.
cost, because it's going to cost more for them to manufacture a Ryzen CPU, a Vega GPU, and then make a custom board that integrates both of them. When you make the APU, you have them manufactured and you can fab them at the same time, which lowers cost, right? That's ultimately what you want to do. You want to lower cost and be able to churn them out faster.
It just seems like using custom hardware versus off-the-shelf hardware is always going to result in more cost. But I guess I'm wrong on that, I assume.
Well, yeah, because you're not wrong, but in the terms of manufacturing the APU and integration and stuff, what you're trying to do is reduce supply cost, right? If you make one APU out of both of them, you make us one integrated socket thing that requires less parts and silicon and all that stuff than manufacturing each separately, right? And if you buy each separately, that costs more overall, even in volume. So if I were to say, okay, I'm going to make the next Xbox off the shelf, I'm going to take some gigabyte board, but I need it custom so that the GPU slot has a socket just like the CPU, and we're going to socket it right in the board and weld it. That actually would cost more than, okay, we're going to make an integrated APU and just make a custom board for that with integrated RAM.
Okay.
All right, I guess that's it for that one.
I thought that was fascinating. I might be the only one. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for being a friend.
The more you know. I need that rainbow over my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this isn't an official question. It's not part of it because guys, we don't answer non-gaming questions anymore. But considering who this is coming from, we're gonna make an exception for tonight. So Riku Sun One.
Brian's back.
Oh, Brian's okay. Great. Let's get that. Hey, Brian, you speak. Are you good?
Hello. Am I good now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Top 3 favorite genres, man, and and your favorite game in each of those genres.
Okay. First of all, racing games. Favorite would be Need for Speed, hands down. Next would be third-person shooters.
Wait, hold on. I gotta back up. Which Need for Speed?
Most Wanted, the original by Black Box,
My man.
the Criterion. Followed by third-person shooters with SOCOM, mostly SOCOM 3, and then to finish it off, fighting games with Tekken 3.
I didn't know you were a big fighting game guy. I knew you like Tekken. I didn't know you were a fighting game fan.
Yep. I'm more a fan of fighting games than most other games. It's just that fighting games have just not been that attractive. Like the Tekken games have been kind of meh, but Tekken 7 seems to be shape up to be quite good. I lost touch of Street Fighter since Street Fighter 4, so I've been like, okay, cool. I'll let you guys just chill. And I haven't really been a fan of Virtua Fighter because I just could not wrap my head around it.
Soul Calibur?
And Dead or Alive.
Yeah, what about Soul Calibur?
Soul Calibur, never got around to trying it.
What?
I never really.
What's your favorite SNK game?
SNK, I'm too young for those.
Brian, I don't think you can call yourself a fighting game fan if you haven't played a lot of these games, bro.
Hey, again, I can only play the games that I have enough time for. Like, I'm not like you. I'm not like 35. I'm like 20s. Something.
I'm 37, sir.
You're like 10 years older than me. That's like a 10-year gap.
Yeah,
like
but,
give me like 10 years.
I'm not trying to give you shit. But I'm just saying, bro. I don't think you can call that one of your favorite genres if you only play one game in that genre. You know?
Oh no. I play Alpha 2 as well. You know, I know my Alpha 2 stuff.
Okay, good.
Tried Marvel's Capcom. Could not understand it at all, but hey, that's what happens. Yeah, it's mainly just Tekken, Street Fighter, Soul Calibur. People have been saying that I should try, just give it a go, but just not going around doing it yet.
It's good.
Yeah, Soul Calibur is fantastic, especially the first 2 games. Try those, especially 2. Holy shit, 2
is amazing.
Oh man.
Hey man, I love me some Soul Blade and Soul Edge.
Old school. There you go. Manny, what about Battle Arena?
I love me some wrestling.
Battle Arena Toshinden, I feel that's a game that needs to come back. So
yeah, where the hell is that game? You know, man, I could go off on about fighting games right now, man.
But you hated Battle Arena Toshinden.
Well, that was because I was a fucking Sega fanboy. I hated anything that was on PlayStation. Remember that? You know. Even though I didn't hate Battle Arena Toshinden when it came to Saturn, then I was okay with it. See, that's why I rail on fanboys, because I used to be one of them. I know all the fucking tales, man. Like, oh, I know what you're doing, motherfucker. All right. The last one here, again, it's not an official question, but we're gonna answer anyway because of what's coming from. It's from Riku. What happened?
I want to hear Brian answer the other question, the Risen question.
Oh yeah, Brian. Damn it. What's the fucking question again? Oh yeah. So Brian, this is a 2-part kind of question, even though. It's about next gen. So he goes, what do you think about the possibility of the Risen CPU being in next gen consoles? And do you think we're going to see a huge graphical leap in the next gen?
Okay. I'm guessing that this guy also watched the Digital Foundry video where the guy did like something. There is a strong chance if the consoles stick with AMD, since Risen is like the new flagship like AMD CPU. And by the sound of it, AMD are banking a lot on Risen. They plan to have like a 2nd gen this year and a 3rd gen next year. So it definitely seems like AMD are behind that. So it stands that their APUs, which will be in the consoles, will be Risen based in some way, shape or form. So there is a strong chance to have some sort of like Risen based CPU or APU in the next console. We'll see a graphical leap. I don't know, because I don't know what else they can really have. I guess the next thing will just be to make more characters on screen. I think that's like the next big thing, because games are already like very shiny as it is. And
wouldn't that help with like destructible environments though?
CPU, yes, it would. But then here's the thing: is it better to spend from their point of view? Is it better to spend more time making a engine that will allow you for destructible environments, or just be able to like to plop in more people on screen to wow people at E3?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
dude, I think fully destructible environments. Like if somebody made a fully an engine that had fully destructible environments in it that could run on a console, that could be the base engine that they could, it'd be the next Unreal Engine in terms of like the base engine that everybody would build off of.
Yeah, Brett, I'm fully with you here. Like, I love my disruptable in like environment games. Like, I love that. But the thing is,
engine?
it's just easier for developers to show off. Like, hey, we now have like 50 people.
I know.
People on screen on once now. Look how cool our game is. And then people just like fucking like, ooh, 50 characters on screen doing nothing. Wow, that's amazing.
You mean 1 million soldiers? Wow.
1 million,
1 million
yeah,
troops.
remember that?
1 million troops.
I want to see in-game footage of somebody like shooting a rocket launcher through a window and just blowing out the whole bottom part of a building and having it tip over into another building. And like you see like the guys inside like falling out the windows and ragdolling around inside.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
I would immediately buy, like, what console is this for? How much money do you want? I'm buying this game.
Oh yeah.
Well, by the looks of it, it was meant to be Crackdown 3, but that seems to be quite scaled back by the looks of it.
Yeah, right. They didn't even talk about that shit anymore, are they? All right. This is again final thing here, but it's not an official question. But we're gonna answer it anyway because it's from Riku. But okay, Riku's asking it, but he's actually asking it for our boy Malik Forte.
Really?
Yeah. Again, not a video game question. Very odd question too. And he wants Brian to fucking answer it first for some reason. So he goes, if a girl comes up to you and wants a banana, but you have no fruits, what do you offer her instead?
I don't understand what he's asking, but I have one answer that's inherent, which is the obvious D. But
I was about to say he's nuts.
That's like the obvious answer, but it doesn't make sense why that's an obvious answer. It's like one of those like instinct things. It's like, oh, she wants a banana, like wants the D.
I'm questioning whether this is really a question from Malik because it sounds like a Riku question. I'm gonna give you guys some insider baseball shit. Brian, you were there for this. But Riku, we have our own little private room and stuff. Me and a couple other guys, right? Brian's in there too. Riku asked us like, "Hey guys, how have you ever put your finger up your nose?" It's like, what? Who the fuck doesn't do that? But to him it was weird. And Torrance and I were like, dude, if you have fucking nose hairs, you're gonna pick your fucking nose. You have no choice. But he's like, nah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm like,
so how does he clean his nose? Does he use one of those suction things that you use for a baby?
I have no idea. I'm like, how do you not pick your nose especially if you're cold? Like, you can't breathe. You got to get in there and do your thing. It's weird. So this question sounds like a Riku question to me. I don't know, Riku.
Not at a bus stop or some shit, like in the bathroom during like your like morning hike, like during your shower, you need to clean your face, like clean in your nose, clean inside your ears, like fucking clean everywhere. Like, but yeah, you don't just fucking like sit there at like the doctor's office or the fucking bus station with your finger lock tablet like an asshole.
You do that shit before you leave.
I feel like every so often what happens with Riku, I feel like I have to question his humanity sometimes.
What is humanity?
I don't know. He just asks these kind of like it's like Data asking a question. It's like, do you walk to the bathroom to pee? Like, really? Yes, I do. Like, obviously he's a very human, but then there's sometimes it's like, wait, really?
Yeah, like he asked us, like, what would you say about people who put fingers up their noses? Like, you mean 99% of people? Like,
yeah.
What the fuck? That's like asking, do you wipe your ass? Of course I do. Very odd.
Do you wipe your ass with toilet paper?
Yeah, they sell toilet paper. That's what it's for. Sometimes I may even use a baby wipe too. But yeah, I don't even know how to answer this fucking question. Like, what do you mean? Like, a girl asks you, I don't understand it. Like, bitch, I don't have a banana. I don't know. Anybody want to tackle this guy? I'm just confused.
I don't know.
I know my reaction if some girl walked up to me and asked me for a banana would be, do I know you?
Yeah.
Wait,
Like, why do I need to give you a banana?
Who are you?
Yeah, you're right, because it's just some random girl. I'm like, what? Who are you? Why are you talking to me?
I mean,
why would you carry fruits around with you in the first place?
Well, the next time you have the next time you need to throw them at somebody,
The more I think about it, this is a very odd question. So it supposes that you're walking around with a basket full of fruit. Some random woman asks you for a banana. You don't have any bananas. I don't know what to say to that.
I mean, you really only have one of two choices, like awkward silence / rejection or sexual innuendo. And I don't really think the sexual, like, I don't think you could just like immediately turn into a construction worker and be like, no, but I got some nuts right here if you want some protein. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, you can't do in the real world. You can't do that.
No,
shit, man.
no, like it doesn't matter how like serious or unserious you are. Like you like, okay, well, you can't like verbally assault somebody with like weird language. Like even it doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl. Like if a stranger walks up, you don't talk to like people like that. Like when you're fucking around with your friends, sure, but like yeah, you generally don't talk to people like that. So maybe we're deconstructing this too much, but it just seems like, okay, so you can be highly inappropriate or awkward. Those seem to be your two options.
Pretty much.
I feel like I'm missing an inside joke here.
I guess I don't get it. All right. Again, I'm like, blah, 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 I don't know.
I don't know. The only thing I know about bananas is that you shouldn't be eating one while making eye contact with your buddies. Just don't make any eye contact while you're eating banana. That's the only rule I know when it comes to bananas.
Oh, bad. All right. Last thing here. Because some people have asked about this. No, we will not be doing a spoiler alert for Spider-Man: Homecoming. We don't do that anymore because we just don't have the time for it. Like, for example, today I spent my entire day writing. So none of that stuff. There's a reason we cut all that fat out.
Spoiler alert. It is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great fucking movie. Oh, I think the Coalition may be doing something, but Throwdown isn't. We don't do that anymore. But yeah, great movie. Go see it. You know?
That's what you need to know.
Yeah, go see the movie. Not better than Spider-Man 2, though. But,
has anybody seen it that gives a thumbs down?
I haven't seen it yet.
Me neither.
No, I haven't seen it either.
No, the movie gets a resounding thumbs up. 2 of them even. All right, man. So let's wrap this shit up, man. So thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section of this episode here on YouTube or on the Coalition, and we'll answer them on next week's show. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, our show is Tony Polanco, and today I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you later, guys.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
Dun, 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 dun. One more week, man. Game of Thrones.
Brett Murdoch.
Back to the Master Sword trials.
Adam Vale.
Go watch that lucha. Go watch some New Japan. Just watch some fucking wrestling.
Go watch Glow Girls.
Yeah, go watch Glow and then watch the doc and start crying after that.
Oh, man. And Brian Monjoma.
Yep. Keep it locked on the Dark Souls of Gaming podcasts.
Yes, indeed, my friend. All right, people. Later.
All right.
Later, guys.
Peace.
Deuces.